Rimuru Tempest. Reincarnated as a slime. I, the master of elemental power. Chapter 61. The banquet proceeded in a joyous atmosphere. Rimuru seemed to recall something and said to King Gazel. Oh, by the way, King Gazel, we will be holding our official founding ceremony in a week. Would you and your people be able to attend? King Gazel pondered for a moment, then happily accepted. A founding ceremony, that's quite significant. Yes, I can. I will be there on time to offer my congratulations. The next day, King Gazel led his Pegasus Knights. And with Rimuru and the others seeing them off, they left Tempest and returned to Dworgen. Rimuru watched the departing group, letting out a long sigh of relief, feeling like he could finally relax and focus on preparing for the celebration. However, he hadn't relaxed for long. When the familiar figures of the Pegasus Knights once again appeared on the horizon, moving incredibly fast, having turned back. Why are they back again? Rimuru and the other executives were puzzled. King Gazel and several accompanying ministers landed again. One minister tossed a constantly squirming sack from a Pegasus. The sack's opening loosened, revealing Besta, the minister who had caused Rimuru so much trouble during his trip to the Dwarf Kingdom. He was now frothing at the mouth and seeing stars from the rapid, bumpy flight on the Pegasus. Rimuru looked at the disheveled Besta on the ground, exclaiming, Besta. King Gazel addressed Rimuru in his calm voice. Rimuru, I thought about it after I left. You are at the beginning of founding your nation, with everything to be built, and you especially lack researchers, don't you? He pointed at Besta on the ground. This fellow, though sometimes slow-witted, certainly has his abilities. Let him stay here and make amends for his past mistakes, using his knowledge to serve you. It turned out that King Gazel, considering his junior disciple and ally, was indeed in urgent need of various technical talents. And Besta happened to be skilled in this area, simply packaged him and sent him over. This both gave Besta an opportunity to atone for his mistakes and provided assistance to his ally. Besta had also somewhat recovered by then, struggling to his feet. Although his face was still pale, he respectfully bowed to King Gazel and said with a firm tone. Your Majesty. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I will do my utmost to assist Lord Rimuru. King Gazel nodded, said no more, and turned briskly again, leading the heavenly Pegasus Knights soaring into the sky. This time, they were truly returning to Dworgen. Rimuru looked at the remaining Besta. Although it felt a bit sudden, it was indeed, as Gazel said, a timely help. He smiled. All right, Mr. Besta, welcome aboard. We have many projects here that need an expert like you. Next, Rimuru immediately arranged personnel. He instructed the orcs responsible for replicating construction projects to go to Veldora's former sealed cave and use its sturdy and secluded environment to build an independent and fully equipped research laboratory for Besta. At the same time, he ordered Gabaru and his lizardmen warriors to provide assistance and guard duties, ensuring the safety of the laboratory and the transportation of supplies. After dealing with Besta's matter, Rimuru finally remembered that there were still 10,000 Pigmen tribe compatriots assisting with post-war reconstruction in the Lizardmen territory. And it was almost time to bring them back for the founding ceremony. So, Rimuru found Charlotte, who was leisurely basking in the sun. Charlotte, could I trouble you to make another trip to the Lizardmen territory? Bring our orc compatriots back. And formally invite Abel and some of his tribesmen to attend the celebration. No problem, it's a small matter. Charlotte lazily stood up and stretched. For him, opening a portal was just a flick of the wrist. After receiving Rimuru's request, Charlotte lazily snapped his fingers, and his figure instantly appeared in the central plaza. He found Benimaru, who was on duty nearby. Benimaru, Charlotte called out. Oh, Lord Charlotte, do you have any instructions? Benimaru immediately stepped forward and saluted. Have someone clear and cordon off this area. No other monsters are allowed to approach for now. Charlotte pointed to a large empty space in the center of the plaza. Understood. Although Benimaru wasn't sure what exactly was to be done, he immediately took the order. And quickly mobilized a squad of ogre soldiers to efficiently isolate the area. Seeing that preparations were complete, Charlotte wasted no more time. He stood in the center of the open space, not even needing any complex movements, just a thought. Analyze. Spatial coordinate positioning complete. Target. Lizardmen Territory Core Area. Commencing construction of a directional spatial teleportation gate. The primordial king efficiently executed the command. A stable and massive teleportation gate, shimmering with blue magical light, instantly unfolded in the center of the open space. And the unique scenery of the Lizardmen territory was faintly visible on the other side of the gate. Charlotte stepped through, his figure disappearing. The sudden appearance of the teleportation gate naturally alerted the Lizardmen patrol. But when they saw Lord Charlotte, with his azure hair and golden eyes, emerge from the gate, they immediately breathed a sigh of relief and respectfully saluted. Charlotte nodded slightly in acknowledgement and went straight to find Abel. Upon finding Abel, Charlotte concisely explained his purpose. To bring the Pigmen tribe home and to formally invite him and some of his tribesmen to Lilim for the founding ceremony in a week. Abel, upon hearing this, immediately solemnly agreed. Lord Charlotte himself has come. I am deeply honored. Please rest assured, I will definitely lead my tribesmen to offer congratulations on time. Afterward, Abel sent someone to lead Charlotte to Krut, the orc leader, who was resting in a temporary camp. Charlotte said to Krut, Krut, you've worked hard on the reconstruction. With the national celebration approaching, I'm here to bring everyone home. Gather everyone. Krut and the surrounding orcs were overjoyed to hear the words, home, and immediately ran to spread the news. Soon, all 10,000 Pigmen tribe warriors were assembled, their eyes sparkling with anticipation. Charlotte looked at the assembled team and activated his ability again. Analyze. Large-scale group precise teleportation spell deployed. Target coordinates. Lilim City Central Plaza designated area. An incredibly vast, complex, and precise magic circle lit up beneath the feet of all the orc warriors, and its light instantly engulfed their figures. Within the central isolation zone of the plaza, a bright flash occurred, and the figures of 10,000 Pigmen tribe warriors appeared out of thin air. They shook their heads slightly, adapting to the instantaneous spatial transfer. When they clearly saw their surroundings, they were stunned. Outside the isolation zone, tens of thousands of Pigmen tribe compatriots who had returned earlier had already gathered. Upon hearing the news, they had spontaneously come to welcome these last returning family members. The earlier returning orcs were filled with excitement and joy. Calling out familiar names or family titles towards those within the isolation zone. Brother. Father. We're here. Hey. You're finally back. Welcome home. The orcs within the isolation zone then realized what was happening, and immense emotion and joy instantly overwhelmed them. Everyone is here. We've truly come home. The next moment, as Benimaru ordered the removal of the isolation, a huge welcoming crowd surged forward. The plaza instantly turned into a massive reunion scene. Long separated family and friends embraced, slapped each other's shoulders, tears of excitement streaming down their faces as they recounted their experiences and longings since parting. Cheers, cries, and laughter intertwined, filling the air with a deeply moving atmosphere. Charlotte stood a little further away, arms crossed, watching the lively and heartwarming scene, a slight smile on his lips. He wasn't very good at dealing with such fervent emotional displays, but he felt good about it internally. Mission accomplished. He yawned, thinking, all right, troublesome business handled. So, unnoticed, Charlotte's figure silently melted into the shadows and slipped away. He went off to find somewhere to amuse himself, leaving the moving reunion scene for the Pigmen tribe to celebrate on their own. Rimuru Tempest Federation Office Building, Rimuru's office. It was late at night, and only a magic crystal lamp on the desk emitted a warm glow. Rimuru was slumped behind a mountain of stacked documents, looking utterly defeated. Rimuru picked up a document written on exquisite parchment, exuding a faint fragrance, and read aloud. Regarding the feasibility report and final proposal for the selection of swimsuit styles for Lord Rimuru and Lord Charlotte on the first day of the summer festival. Submitted by Xian. He slammed the document onto the desk and buried his face in the pile of papers. Ah. Why do I need a report even for what to wear? And this terrifying level of detail. This isn't a feasibility report at all, it's practically a design blueprint plus a manufacturing manual. Rejected. It must be rejected. How could I possibly approve something like this? He angrily picked up his pen, intending to write, rejected. But a vision of Xian's tearful, wronged expression in her loud cries seemed to appear before his eyes, causing his hand to tremble. Never mind. I'll just approve it with, read, please handle as appropriate. Let her discuss it with Shuna. Sigh. He wearily picked up the next document, a material requisition list submitted by Rigard. Ingredients, alcohol, building materials, magic ore, special fireworks. Wow. This amount. The budget is going to explode. Although it's for everyone's enjoyment, but, my heart aches. It feels like spending a year's salary from my previous life. Approve it. I have no choice, after all, it's a grand celebration. Another document was an security deployment map submitted by Soe. 3 teams of wolf ogres to be dispatched to the East District, the South District to be handled by the ogre, the core area to be covered by Lord Guren's barrier. Seems fine. Soe is reliable as always. Approved. No sooner had he signed it than a request form, written in Gobta's crooked handwriting, slid over. Proposing to hold the first federal slime speed race. The prize is an unlimited supply of snacks for 1 day. This brat. What kind of crazy ideas does he come up with? And why can only slimes participate? I'm a slime, you idiot. This is definitely a scheme to get free food and drinks. Rejected. Absolutely rejected. He waved his pen and wrote, rejected, even drawing an angry face. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling, muttering to himself. I wish I could just turn back into a slime and laze around. Why is being a king more tiring than being a corporate slave in my previous life? At least back then I got overtime pay. Now I'm practically paying out of my own pocket. I only suggested a celebration so everyone could relax and have fun. Why'd I end up with so many documents to look at? I have to approve the rules for the martial arts tournament, approve the procedures for receiving the Dwarf King, even choose the patterns for the fireworks. Why can't the dwarf craftsmen just decide these things themselves? In Vesta, he just arrived and already submitted such a long list of research equipment. I haven't even heard of many of these names. These things must be expensive, right? They must be really expensive. Wait. This, high-purity magic essence condenser, sounds like it might be related to the magic essence internal circulation system. Tisk. I guess I can't completely reject it. There's so much to do, it's overflowing. Wisdom King, please help me. At least help me categorize these documents. The calm voice of the Wisdom King echoed in his mind. Solution. Sorting by urgency and content category has been completed. Remaining priority tasks, 17. Remaining regular tasks, 43. Suggested tasks, 11. Rimuru, just let me die. Despite his complaints, he resignedly sat up straight. Sighed, picked up his pen again, and his eyes became serious. Sigh, never mind, it's all for everyone, for Tempest, just approve it, approve it. Only the rustling of the pen on paper, and Rimuru's occasional sighs and complaints, remained in the room until late into the night. In the dead of night, Rimuru finally finished the mountain of tasks, dragging his weary, mentally, body out of the office. Ready to collapse into bed and sleep until the end of time. However, he did not know that after he left the office, a azure figure ghost-like quietly appeared by the door. Charlotte gently pushed open the door and looked at the desk, cluttered with documents, a rare hint of shame flashing in his golden eyes. He felt a pang of sympathy for Rimuru for a second. As one of the leaders, he had dumped all the official duties on Rimuru. While he himself spent his days wandering, sleeping, and seeking amusement. Although Rimuru had never complained. Charlotte felt a little apologetic at this moment. Especially seeing Rimuru looking like he was about to burn out. Sigh. Charlotte sighed softly, walked behind the desk, and ran his fingers over the documents that still carried Rimuru's scent. Forgive me, Rimuru, this is the last time. Suddenly, as if he had made some kind of decision, his eyes became serious. All right. Consider this compensation. He made a decision that was a great sacrifice. Tomorrow, Rimuru would be forced to take a day off. All official duties would be handled personally by Charlotte Tempest. The next morning, sunlight just spilled into the corridor. Shuna, as usual, carrying refreshing tea and breakfast pastries for Lord Rimuru, whom she believed, must have worked late again handling official duties. Gently pushed open the office door. Lord Rimuru, you must have worked very late again, haven't you? I've prepared. Her gentle words stopped halfway. Because she saw that sitting behind the main desk was not the familiar blue slime, but Lord Charlotte, with his azure long hair and brilliant golden eyes, whose appearance bore some resemblance to Lord Rimuru but seemed more mature. Charlotte was propping his chin with one hand, while the other casually flipped through the documents before him. The primordial king's ability allowed him to process information at an astonishing speed, not even needing to write. A slight movement of his mind was enough to make annotations. Lord Charlotte. Shuna's eyes widened in surprise, almost dropping the tray she was holding. Why are you here? Where is Lord Rimuru? Has something happened? Her first thought was that something had gone wrong, so she quickly put down the tray and hurried to Charlotte's side. Out of concern and a hint of disbelief, the gentle and considerate Shuna instinctively made a gesture that was somewhat presumptuous but full of care. She leaned slightly, extended her fair hand, and gently placed the back of it on Charlotte's forehead. Feeling his body temperature, wanting to confirm if he was unwell to be acting so abnormally. Lord Charlotte, are you all right? Are you feeling unwell somewhere? Shuna's tone was filled with worry, and her eyes clearly read, this is so unlike you. Charlotte was taken aback by Shuna's sudden intimate concern, then he gently pushed her hand away with a wry smile. I'm fine, Shuna. My temperature is normal, and my brain isn't broken. He sighed and explained. It's just that Rimuru works too hard, so I'm forcing him to take a day off to rest and play. All matters here today will be handled by me. Upon hearing this, Shuna finally let out a sigh of relief, but her surprise remained undiminished. She looked at Charlotte, who had an expression of, I'm going to work seriously today. Then at the pile of documents on the desk that was visibly shrinking, and couldn't help but cover her mouth and chuckle. So that's it. Lord Charlotte is truly kind. However, this is truly a very rare sight. She arranged the tea and pastries for Charlotte. Then, Lord Charlotte, you'll be working hard today. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to ask me. After leaving the office, Shuna still wore an incredulous smile. She decided to immediately find Lord Rimuru. Tell him this good news, and ensure he absolutely would not come within a step of the office building today. Meanwhile, Charlotte in the office continued to handle official duties with inhuman efficiency, muttering to himself. It seems a bit more troublesome than I imagined. Rimuru really has it tough usually. But since I promised, I have to finish it. The daily life of the Rimuru Tempest Federation seemed to have welcomed a temporary prime minister, with a completely different style today. I'm so bored. Rimuru, lay on the soft bed, staring at the ceiling, sighing for what felt like the nth time today. My mind was still replaying what Charlotte Tempest said this morning when he suddenly burst into my room. Rimuru, I can't bear to see you working so hard. Today, as your good brother, I'll take your place. You go and have fun for a day. At the time, I was still half asleep, and my first reaction to hearing that wasn't happiness, but an subconscious complaint. Only one day. Heaven knows how much paperwork I've accumulated. One day won't be enough. Then that guy just stood there, trying to cutely muddle through. Seeing his rare moment of conscience, and a slight embarrassment, the resentment I felt from being woken up dissipated. It was replaced by a helpless thought of, has this lazy guy finally wised up? And a tiny bit, just a tiny bit, of relief and happiness. At least he has some conscience. But, I rolled over, my slime body bouncing slightly. But, being suddenly told, you have nothing to do today, go play, made me feel a bit at a loss. Until now, after waking up, it was either dealing with documents, inspecting construction, or being surrounded by Xian and Shuna. My schedule was packed, though much of it wasn't by my own will. Now that the momentum that always pushed me forward was suddenly gone, I felt like a toy without a spring, frozen in place. Play? What should I play? I murmured to myself. Go find Gobta and them. At this hour, they're probably training hard for the martial arts tournament. It might not be good for me to disturb them. Go help at the construction site. No, I said I wouldn't work today, and if Rigard saw me, he'd definitely assign me new tasks. Go to the kitchen for free food and drinks. At this time, Shuna must be busy preparing meals for the festival, and Charlotte Tempest is in the office. Shion is most likely there too. I'd better not walk into a trap. Arg. Is being completely idle really such a troublesome thing? Sigh. I let out a long sigh, flattening myself even further like a true slime. Anyway, I'll just go for a stroll first, maybe I'll find something interesting. I slowly wiggled myself off the bed, bounced out of the room, and began this rare and unsettling first day of forced vacation. The sun was bright, the breeze was comfortable, everyone was busy. Only I, Rimuru, like a superfluous slime, bounced aimlessly through the bustling streets. It's just too idle. After bouncing aimlessly for a while, I happened to see Shuna standing at the street corner, her head slightly tilted, her gaze gently sweeping the surroundings. Her slender fingers tapped her chin, as if she was searching for something. Her simple kimono formed a strange harmony with the busy scene around her, like a moving ukiyo-e painting. Yo, Shuna. I bounced over and greeted her. Shuna turned at the sound, and seeing it was me, a gentle and joyful smile, like spring flowers, immediately bloomed on her face. She curtsied slightly, her movements graceful and fluid. Oh, it's Rimuru-sama. Is something the matter? Her voice was like a spring breeze rustling wind chimes, clear and soft. Nothing really, I awkwardly swayed my body. It's just that Charlotte Tempest suddenly told me to take the day off, and I'm a bit bored out of my mind, not knowing what to do. Sigh, telling such a well-behaved Shuna that I'm troubled by having a day off feels a bit embarrassing. Shuna listened, covering her lips with her hand, letting out a soft laugh, her eyes curving into beautiful crescent moons. So that's how it is. She thought for a moment, then spoke in her gentle tone, naturally. Well, it's a rare opportunity. I was just about to go into the Jura forest to look for some beautiful flowers, to prepare decorations for the upcoming ceremony. Would Rimuru-sama like to come along? Her invitation sounded so natural, as if she truly just happened to need to do this, and just happened to encounter me with nothing to do. Those clear eyes looked at me expectantly, making it impossible to refuse. And of course, I didn't know that this was actually Shuna's elaborately planned invitation, conceived immediately after she learned of my day off from Charlotte Tempest. Dropping everything to, casually, run into me. Go to the forest to find flowers. Sounds good. I was just worried about having nothing to do, so this suggestion was like finding a pillow when I was sleepy. It's better than aimlessly wandering around here. Alright, let's go together. That's wonderful. Shuna's smile grew even brighter, and she curtsied slightly again. Then, please allow me to lead the way, Rimuru-sama. I know a few places where some lovely flowers might be blooming. And so, Shuna and I left the bustling town together and headed towards the lush Jura forest. Shuna walked beside me, her steps light yet maintaining her elegant demeanor, occasionally turning her head to look at me with her gentle, water-like gaze. Then softly introducing the plants along the way, or recalling some peaceful and beautiful little things about flowers. Sunlight filtered through the gaps in the leaves, casting dappled light spots. The air was filled with the fresh scent of earth and plants, and in my ears were Shuna's gentle whispers and the birdsong of the forest. I suddenly felt that this forced vacation might not be so bad after all. At least, it's much better than being idle alone. Following Shuna's footsteps, we gradually delved deeper into the forest. The surrounding trees grew taller and denser, and sunlight could only filter through layers of leaves, casting fragmented golden flecks. The air was filled with an increasingly fresh and sweet fragrance. Rimuru-sama, this way please. Shuna gently guided, pushing aside a drooping vine. The next moment, the sight before me made me involuntarily hold my breath and exclaim in genuine surprise, "Whoa!" The view suddenly opened up to a small clearing in the forest, as if meticulously tended by the god of nature. In the clearing, an unbelievably brilliant sea of magic flowers bloomed, unlike anything I had ever seen. There were rainbow orchids with petals as transparent as ice crystals, yet shimmering with iridescence along their edges. Stardust grass with stamens that twinkled like tiny stars, emitting a soft glow. Dream roses with countless layers whose colors changed unpredictably with the angle of light. And even wind-song lilies that swayed gently like living things, emitting subtle, melodious chimes with the breeze. Many of them were rare varieties I'd never seen, which Kijin said had extremely strict cultivation conditions. This is too beautiful. Shuna, look. That one glows. That one looks like crystal. Wow. And that one sings. I excitedly bounced around the flower bushes. Like a child entering a botanical garden for the first time, wishing I had more pairs of eyes to see everything. Shuna didn't exclaim like I did, she simply stood quietly half a step behind me. Still smiling gently, her beautiful eyes reflecting the dazzling sea of flowers, but more of her gaze was focused on me. Seeing me so happy, the smile on her face deepened, as if I were the most admirable sight in this flower sea. Yes, Rimuru-sama. They are all very beautiful. She softly responded to my every exclamation, her tone full of indulgence and joy. I couldn't help but burrow behind a flower bush, poking my slime head out from among the strange flowers. Shuna, don't I look like a secret treasure hidden in the flowers? Shuna chuckled at my antics, her laughter as clear and pleasant as the sound of a bluebell. He, Rimuru-sama, you are more precious than any treasure. She also cooperatively bent down slightly, pretending to search for me among the flowers. We frolicked for a little while among the flowers, mostly me playing. While Shuna maintained her elegant demeanor, smiling as she watched me. Feeling a bit tired from playing, I simply fell backward, carefully avoiding the flower stalks. And lay my round body down on the soft, fragrant grass amidst the flowers. The sunlight filtered through the leaves above, becoming warm and not harsh. The scent of flowers and fresh grass enveloped me, it was incredibly comfortable. What a wonderful place. I sighed contentedly. Shuna also gently sat down beside me, then, mimicking my posture, very ladylike, lay down right next to me. There was a polite distance between us, but we could clearly feel each other's presence. Silence fell around us, leaving only the rustling of the breeze through the flower leaves and the faint birdsong in the distance. I slightly tilted my head, meeting Shuna's sideways gaze. Her cheeks were faintly flushed, whether from our earlier walk or the tranquil atmosphere, I couldn't tell. Sunlight danced on her long eyelashes, and those eyes, always brimming with tenderness, now clearly reflected my blue, round figure. She didn't speak, just kept that usual, heart-meltingly gentle smile on her lips. I, too, felt an involuntary sense of very peaceful joy, gazing back at her. We lay there quietly side by side, our gazes intertwined, smiling silently. Together enjoying this beautiful moment, stolen from busy preparations, enveloped in the fragrance of flowers and sunshine. All the busy public affairs and festival preparations seemed to be isolated outside this small sea of flowers. Time itself seemed willing to slow down for this moment. Shuna and I were enjoying this moment of tranquility. The sun was warm, the flower scent intoxicating. And the atmosphere was so perfect that one would want to lie there until dark. Suddenly, a slightly clumsy buzzing sound broke the silence. I tilted my head and saw a plump, furry bee flying crookedly above us. It flew extremely unsteadily, limping. One of its wings seemed injured, and it looked like it was about to fall. Oh, it seems to be injured. I mumbled, instinctively wanting to bounce up and see if I could help. Just as I approached the injured bee, an anomaly suddenly occurred. From behind a dense bush of spiky magic flowers, a black lightning bolt suddenly shot out. It was a giant beetle, the size of a basin, with a shiny black carapace and ferocious horns. It seemed to have mistaken me for a threat trying to harm the bee. And with a speed unbefitting its size, it charged at me head-on. I was startled, frantically bouncing backward to dodge. The beetle's horn grazed my gelatinous body, creating a cool breeze. Rimuru-sama. Shuna also cried out, sitting up. Her face filled with worry, but she didn't act rashly, to avoid provoking the beetle. The beetle, missing its attack, let out a low buzz and adjusted its direction, about to charge again. I quickly concentrated. Water blade. A compressed water blade accurately shot onto the ground in front of the beetle. Carving a shallow groove is a warning. The beetle was startled by this sudden attack and paused for a moment. But its determination to protect its companion made it emit another threatening hiss. Seriously, it seems I can't communicate without being firm. I sighed. It seems I need to calm it down first. I stopped dodging and, seizing the opportunity, the moment the beetle charged again. I suddenly released some sticky spider silk, temporarily trapping its movements. Taking advantage of this, I quickly approached the injured bee that had fallen to the ground. Healing potion. I carefully applied a tiny amount of healing potion to the bee's damaged wing. A soft glow flickered, and the bee's wing recovered to its original state at a visible speed. It happily vibrated its wings a few times, emitting a healthy buzzing sound. At the same time, I also used a tiny amount of healing potion on the temporarily trapped beetle. To soothe any internal injuries it might have sustained from the collision and its anxiety. There, calm down. I mean no harm. See, I've already healed your friend. The beetle seemed to sense the healthy aura of the recovered bee. And its struggling movements gradually ceased. Its black compound eyes curiously observed me. The healthy bee happily flew 2 circles around me. Then lightly landed on the black beetle's horn, gently rubbing against it. As if comforting it, and also expressing gratitude to me. Then, the bee flew to an inconspicuous, small honeycomb made of special resin. Took out a small drop of golden, glistening honey, exuding an indescribably rich floral fragrance. And carefully held it with its forelegs, presenting it to me. For me, I surprisingly extended a small tentacle to receive it. The moment the drop of honey touched me, an extremely pure, sweet aroma, a blend of countless magic flower essences, wafted over. Making my entire body feel as if it was leaping with joy. I shared a tiny bit with Shuna. And then we tasted the tiny bit of honey together. Instantly, an indescribable deliciousness burst forth. The flavor was incredibly rich in layers, sweet but not cloying. Followed by a refreshing aftertaste after the intense floral fragrance. I could even feel the comfortable sensation of pure and gentle magic essence flowing within my body. Oh my goodness, this is truly delicious. I couldn't help but exclaim. Yes, it is. Shuna's eyes also widened slightly, her face flushed with intoxication. I've never tasted such rich and wonderful honey. I immediately realized that this was definitely a top-tier treasure. The direction the bee flew from earlier was precisely the dangerous area deep in the forest with extremely high magic essence concentration. The magic flowers growing there were certainly not ordinary. A brilliant idea popped into my head. We were just lacking a stable and high-quality source of honey. I looked at the healthy bee and the loyal black beetle before me, and said with a smile. For this delicious gift of thanks. And to commemorate our encounter, I shall bestow names upon you. I pointed at the bee. You, from now on, shall be called Apito. The name carried a sense of lightness and sweetness. Then I pointed at the black beetle. And you, so powerful and loyal, shall be called Zekian. The name carried a sense of solidity and guardianship. As the naming was completed, 2 streams of pure magic essence surged into their bodies. Their bodies slightly enlarged. Their carapaces and fur became more lustrous, and their eyes gleamed with higher intelligence. In return for receiving names and power, I said to them, and seemingly to any other bee colonies that might exist in this flower sea. You need to regularly provide me with a certain amount of this honey, alright. The newly named Apito buzzed and flew happily. And Zekian also lowered its head, gently tapping the ground with its horn, indicating understanding and submission. What an unexpected gain. Not only did I enjoy a wonderful time and save a small life, but I also found a top-tier honey source for the Rimuru Tempest Federation. This day off was truly worth it. Afterward, the named Apito and Zekian were about to enter a deep slumber. Rimuru cast a barrier for them to evolve safely, then returned with Shuna. Demon Lord Clayman's Castle, Reception Hall. Inside the bright and luxurious hall, 4 demon lords sat in various postures. Clayman elegantly swirled his red wine glass, a meaningful smile playing on his lips. On the sofa opposite him, Milam Nava was swinging her legs, looking impatient for some fun. Her sky-blue pupils, like a clear sky spanning thousands of miles, sparkled with childlike curiosity. I invited you all today because I discovered something particularly interesting. Sharing the joy is better than enjoying it alone. Clayman chuckled softly, tapping the crystal ball with his fingertip. The interior of the sphere immediately displayed the fierce battle scene from the Jura Great Forest. Rimuru's slime army employed sophisticated tactics, and the ogres, wolf cavalry, and ogre tribe warriors displayed astonishing combat strength. And the most striking image was the shocking scene of Charlotte, manipulating nature to generate a massive wood dragon, instantly restraining the pig-headed emperor. Whoa! That's amazing. Milam instantly lunged toward the crystal ball, her face nearly touching it, her eyes wide and round. That blue-haired, golden-eyed guy. His moves are super cool. And that slime. I've never seen that fighting style before. I really want to go and fight them for fun right now. She gesticulated excitedly, as if she had spotted her most beloved toy. Demon Lord Carrion of the Beast Kingdom folded his arms, his muscular body leaning slightly forward. His short golden hair stood straight up like a lion's mane, his face etched with shock and solemnity. Unbelievable. The level of evolution of those monsters, and the power of that guy who controls plants. When did the Jura Great Forest give birth to such a monster? What exactly is he? Frey, the Queen of the Sky, leaned languidly on the sofa, her pair of long, slender legs crossed. She had long, cascading silver-white hair and a seductive, beautiful face. Her attire was extremely daring. A bright red long dress perfectly outlined her explosive figure, with the front of the skirt wide open. Only small amounts of fabric cleverly concealed the crucial areas, and her magnificent bosom was barely covered, making her look both dangerous and alluring. She lightly tapped her red lips with a slender finger, her voice carrying a hint of lazy surprise. Oh my! How astonishing! Such immense power appearing without a sound. Clayman, do you know their background? This is not an existence that can be ignored. Clayman contentedly savored their reactions, especially Milam's excitement that nearly overflowed the screen. He swirled his glass, mentioning casually. Their background is still under investigation. However, it seems to be connected to the missing Veldora. Such an interesting new power is right next door to us. I believe it is necessary for all of you to be aware of it. He specifically looked at Milam, his tone carrying a subtle hint of guidance. Speaking of which, Milam, didn't you and Veldora have a non-aggression pact concerning the Jura Great Forest? Milam puffed out her cheeks, tilting her head like a child pondering the location of candy, then waved her hand dismissively. Veldora has been gone for so long. It doesn't matter. A pact like that is automatically void when the party involved isn't here. She suddenly leapt off the sofa, put her hands on her hips, and beamed with a brilliant smile, as if she had discovered a new game. It's decided. I'm going to go play with my new toys. They look super interesting. She suddenly turned around, her sky blue eyes sweeping over Clayman, Carrion, and Frey. Although her face still held a naive smile, her words carried an undeniable solemnity belonging to an ancient demon lord. But none of you are allowed to interfere. Those are my new toys. I'm going to be the first one to go play with them. No one is allowed to steal them or cause trouble. It's a promise. Before her words had faded, she had transformed into a cheerful whirlwind, smashing through the window and flying out of Clayman's castle. Leaving behind only a string of silver bell laughter and 3 demon lords with varying expressions. Clayman watched the direction Milam vanished in, the corner of his mouth curving into the satisfied arc of a successful plan. Carrion frowned deeply, exchanging a glance with Frey. Both of their eyes held wariness toward the unknown power, along with a hint of amusement regarding that new power's fate. Being targeted by Milam was not an easy matter. The remnants of the setting sun dyed the streets of the Rimuru Tempest Federation a warm orange-red, draping the busy and vibrant city in a soft veil. Rimuru and Shuna walked side by side on the way back. The atmosphere was peaceful and warm. Rimuru's round slime body wobbled slightly as he hopped, indicating he was in excellent spirits. While savoring the rare tranquility in the sea of flowers, he also felt the satisfaction brought by the precious honey inside his stomach. Shuna, meanwhile, held an armful of carefully selected magic flowers, her steps light and elegant. A faint, contented smile graced her face. Her gaze occasionally falling gently upon Lord Rimuru beside her. As if she were guarding the most precious treasure in the world. The colorful, uniquely shaped magic flowers in her arms shimmered faintly under the setting sun, showing no signs of wilting. On the contrary, having been removed from a dangerous environment, they appeared even more luscious and vibrant, nourished by Shuna's gentle magic power. They emitted a refreshing, mixed fragrance, drawing curious and admiring glances from the monsters passing by. Today was truly fruitful, Lord Rimuru. Shuna said softly, her voice like a spring breeze brushing against zither strings. Not only did we find such beautiful flowers, but we also met Apito and Zekian, and received unexpected, precious gifts. Indeed, Rimuru replied, his tone carrying a hint of pride. I didn't expect a casual stroll to bring so many surprises. When the festival comes, the desserts made with this honey will surely be very popular. He was already looking forward to the new delicacies Shuna would create using this premium honey. However, this tranquility and warmth were shattered by a sudden purple figure as they approached the town center. Xian was standing at the street corner, her face showing obvious anxiety. Her purple eyes continuously scanned the surroundings, as if searching for something important that had been lost. When she finally spotted Rimuru's familiar blue figure, her previously tense, lovely face instantly thawed like a frozen river, blossoming into a brilliant smile of extreme happiness and relief. As if the entire world had brightened because of it. Lord Rimuru, where did you go? I've been looking for you so. Her voice carried the joy of immense relief. And she hurried toward Rimuru. However, her steps and words suddenly stopped when her gaze landed on Shuna, who was standing beside Rimuru, holding a bouquet of flowers and smiling gently. They abruptly halted. The air seemed to solidify at that moment. The brilliant, happy smile on Xian's face instantly froze, as if locked by invisible frost. Shuna, meanwhile, still maintained that flawless, gentle expression, seemingly unaware of the impending storm. But in the depths of her clear eyes, a faint, almost imperceptible trace of the victor's composure and certainty quickly flashed. Oh my! Shuna spoke first, her voice as soft and lovely as a mountain spring, yet carrying a subtle, perfectly calibrated hint of surprise. She slightly tilted her head, elegantly displaying the dazzling bouquet of magic flowers in her arms. As if merely engaging in the most ordinary small talk. If it isn't Secretary Xian. She paused deliberately, as if organizing her words. And then continued in that gentle tone, every word perfectly clear. The weather is lovely today. So, Lord Rimuru and I went to. She paused subtly again, and then, slowly and deliberately, injected her words into the air like carefully prepared poison. Flower viewing tilde. That wasn't enough. She used a tone that made it sound like stating the good weather, completely natural. Yet carried lethal damage, lightly adding the final, decisive factor. We went. Just the two of us tilde. In that instant, it was as if a bolt of lightning had exploded in Xian's mind. Or as if 10,000 years of profound ice had instantly frozen her from head to toe. Her entire body was like a statue hit by petrification magic. Completely rigid on the spot. The expression on her face transitioned from the initial stiffness, rapidly shifting to unbelievable shock, then transforming into immense disappointment and a sense of devastation that struck like a tsunami. Finally, all color drained from her face, leaving only complete grayness. The outcome of today's battle was Xian's defeat. Pair of twos. I can't beat that. You can't play, huh? HMPH HMPH HMPH. Ha ha ha. 3. I win. Ha ha ha. Rimuru smugly slapped his last card onto the makeshift card table, constructed from wooden crates, letting out an arrogant yet somewhat cute laugh. His human form's cheeks were flushed with excitement from the victory. Meanwhile, Xian, sitting opposite him, stared at the excellent hand of cards she couldn't play. Grinding her teeth in frustration, small veins even bulging on her forehead, her fists clenched as if she wanted to crush the cards. Just barely. Charlotte, sitting on the other side, looked speechlessly at the single joker remaining in his hand, and lazily tossed the card into the discard pile. Sigh, terrible card luck. I was just one card away from turning the tables. His invention, bringing the Fight the Landlord game from his previous life into the monster world out of boredom, had become a new form of entertainment for everyone. Just as the card game ended, in this relaxed moment where victory and defeat were settled. Boom. A vast and mighty crimson magic essence shot up into the sky from somewhere in the town, like a volcanic eruption. Instantly, a massive, heavy, crimson barrier, exuding an aura of absolute defense, rapidly expanded. enveloping the entire city of Lilim like an inverted bowl. What's going on? It's Gurren's barrier. Rimuru immediately recognized this familiar power. At the same moment the barrier deployed. Charlotte, who had been lazily sitting nearby collecting the cards, instantly vanished from his spot like a phantom, leaving behind only a faint spatial fluctuation. His reaction speed was astonishing. Report. An unknown powerful individual is detected approaching at extremely high speed. Estimated total magic essence is approximately 10 times greater than the individual. Judgment. Extremely high threat. The calm yet severe voice of Wisdom King echoed in Rimuru's mind. 10 times greater. Rimuru's heart sank. That level of magic essence. He immediately shouted to Xian. Xian, quickly go notify everyone to be on guard. But not battle readiness, let's assess the situation first. Having said that, Rimuru also immediately moved, heading towards the edge of the barrier, the anticipated impact point. A vacant lot on the outskirts of the city. Just as he arrived at the vacant lot, Gurren's figure was already standing nearby, maintaining the barrier with a solemn expression. Above the sky, a figure like a small meteor was plummeting straight toward Lilim with a cheerful whistling sound. Milim Nava, the tyrant of destruction, demon lord, is here to play. However, the next second. Bang! A dull thud, accompanied by a small cry of pain. Awag! Demon Lord Milim smashed headfirst squarely into the invisible barrier wall. The enormous kinetic energy caused the entire barrier to ripple violently, yet the barrier itself remained completely still. Milim was seen clutching her forehead where she had hit, hovering in midair. Tears of grievance welling up in her sky-blue eyes, her small mouth pouted high, completely devoid of the fierce momentum she had moments before. Oh ow, it hurts. What is this? Why is there such a hard wall blocking the way? As Rimuru arrived, he saw Charlotte already standing in the vacant lot ahead. Charlotte at this moment was completely different from his usual lazy demeanor. His posture was straight, his azure long hair moved without wind, and his pair of golden eyes of truth flowed with cold, profound light. Locking onto the head clutching, teary-eyed, uninvited guest, in the air, his face showing unprecedented solemnity. The analysis results from the primordial king were clearly being fed back to him. Report. Analyzing target individual via eyes of truth. Analysis complete. Individual name, Milim Nava. Possesses ultimate skill, Lord of Wrath. Warning. The characteristic of this authority is, the longer the battle and the angrier the emotion. The individual's magic essence quantity and destructive power increase exponentially, theoretically without upper limit. If full conflict erupts, city destruction probability, 99.8%. Supplement. Current individual emotional analysis. Primary components are curiosity, playfulness, slight annoyance. No definite malice or killing intent detected. Upon hearing the last sentence, the tense aura surrounding Charlotte instantly relaxed. Like a deflated ball, coolness lasted less than 3 seconds. He rubbed his brow helplessly, reverting to his classic lazy expression. What the, so it's just a troublesome kid looking for fun. You scared me. Forget it, I'll leave this kind of troublesome matter for Rimuru to worry about. I'll just coast. He simply crossed his arms over his chest, adopting a stance ready to watch the show. Meanwhile, Milim in the air recovered from the initial impact dizziness. The pain in her forehead and the grievance of being locked outside made her a little angry, at least outwardly. HMPH. What kind of broken wall is this? How dare it block Milim Sama's path? Watch me smash you to bits. Pouting angrily, she swung her small fists and began fiercely pounding the invisible barrier wall in front of her. Dong. 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 Every punch contained enough power to flatten a small mountain, causing the barrier's light to ripple and emit heavy, dull thuds. However, was the impregnable fortress fully deployed by Gurren something easily dealt with? Although the barrier rippled continuously, it remained completely stationary, firmly guarding the city. Huh. It's pretty hard. Seeing this, Milim didn't stop. Instead, she became even more energized. After several fruitless strikes, she seemed to finally get a little, truly angry. Heya! She let out a delicate yell, and vast, heart-stopping magic essence began to gather on her small fist, causing the surrounding space to subtly twist. This punch utilized about 30% of her full power and was augmented by the ultimate authority. Boom. This punch slammed hard into the barrier, no longer producing a dull thud, but an almost explosive roar. On the incredibly sturdy crimson barrier wall, a faint but clearly audible crack sound finally rang out. And a tiny fissure abruptly appeared. It immediately healed afterward. Gurren, who was maintaining the barrier from afar, let out a muffled groan, his face turning pale. The immense pressure making him feel extremely strained, but he still grit his teeth and held on. Seeing the fissure, Milam's eyes lit up. It worked. One more time. She raised her fist again without hesitation. The power gathering this time was even more terrifying. Clearly enough to completely shatter the barrier that had already shown cracks. Just as Milam's terrifying punch, capable of shattering mountains and rivers and imbued with the authority of the Lord of Wrath, was about to completely strike the crimson barrier, which had already cracked and was visibly failing. Charlotte, who had been watching from the sidelines and adopting a coasting posture, instantly gained sharp eyes. He couldn't just watch Gurren's barrier be forcibly broken, the resulting shockwave alone would be enough to damage the city. He casually raised his right hand, his palm facing the front of Milam's fist. Analysis. Based on the imaginary space authority, construct a temporary, dimensional fault barrier. Without any earth-shattering fanfare, in the small space between Milam's fist and Gurren's barrier. A strange, intangible, and immaterial barrier that seemed to sever layers of spatial dimensions instantly unfolded. It did not emit powerful energy fluctuations like Gurren's barrier. Instead, it resembled a bottomless void, consuming all energy and matter that approached it. The next second, Milam's fist slammed down violently. Wang. A strange, heavy hum, seemingly emanating from the depths of a distant void, rang out. Milam's earth-shaking power was like punching into an infinite pile of cotton, or falling into a bottomless abyss that continuously dispersed and conducted power to different dimensions. When the terrifying fist pressure and magic essence light contacted Charlotte's multi-dimensional barrier, they were quickly decomposed, absorbed, and transferred. Aside from causing a subtle ripple in space, they failed to shake Gurren's barrier behind it in the slightest. Milam let out a surprised, huh. Feeling extremely displeased as if her strength had hit nothing. And the moment Charlotte perfectly received the power of that punch. Charlotte quickly glanced at Gurren, who was gritting his teeth and holding on in the distance, and subtly gave him a clear look. Now is the time, drop the barrier. Gurren instantly understood. He immediately and without hesitation deactivated the maintenance of the impregnable fortress. The crimson barrier covering the entire city rapidly receded like a tide, as if it had never been there. Charlotte also dispersed the dimensional barrier almost simultaneously. The entire process was smooth and seamless. He reverted to his lazy appearance once more. As if the person who had intervened instantly and effortlessly neutralized a devastating blow wasn't him. In this way, he both avoided the catastrophic consequence of the barrier being forcibly broken. And naturally, let Milam in, giving both parties a way to save face. In the vacant lot outside the city, only Rimuru, Charlotte, and Milam, who had just landed and was still slightly grumpy from punching air, remained. Seeing that Milam, although her attack was neutralized by Charlotte Tempest, was still pouting angrily. Rimuru quickly stepped forward to mediate, trying to appease this little ancestor. May I ask who you are? Why did you attack us? Do you have some business here? Rimuru tried his best to make his tone sound friendly and non-hostile. Milam crossed her arms over her chest, her small mouth pouting high, and turned her face away, looking incredibly cute. But her words carried dissatisfaction. HMPH. I just wanted to say hello. But you blocked me with such hard walls. You don't welcome me at all. I'm angry. Just then, Charlotte Tempest had a flash of inspiration, stepped forward, and said in his slightly lazy yet very sincere tone. Oh, you can't blame us for this. It's simply because the power you emit is too astonishing, a strength we've never seen before. Our small territory, feeling such a massive magic essence approaching, out of instinct and protection for our home, had no choice but to activate a barrier and treat it cautiously. After all, a great existence like yourself could cause quite a stir with just a little carelessness. This perfectly timed flattery. indeed made the anger on Milam's face melt away at a visible speed, replaced by a hint of unconcealed smugness and elation. She slightly lifted her chin. HMPH tilde of course. You guys do have some taste. However, just as the atmosphere seemed to be easing, another change occurred. Seeing the barrier shatter, which was actually Gurren actively withdrawing it, and then seeing an unknown demon lord approaching Rimuru and Charlotte Tempest. Shion, Benimaru, Soe, and other executives watched from afar, their hearts burning with anxiety, thinking that their two lords were in danger. Don't even think about harming Rimuru-sama, Charlotte-sama. Shion was the first to charge forward, her eyes burning with rage. Goriki Maru cutting through the air, delivering a fierce upward slash at Milam. Milam lightly leapt on the spot, easily dodging the slash, and landed on the ground, a look of amusement on her face. But to Shion and the others, that smile seemed sinister and terrifying. What? Do you want to play with me? Before her words finished, Soe's figure appeared behind her like a ghost. And countless incredibly tough, magic-infused reinforced shadow threads instantly shot out, binding Milam tightly from head to toe. Soe coolly pulled the threads, calmly stating, no matter how powerful you are, you won't easily break through my specially made spider silk. At the same time, Benimaru had already finished charging, pushing his hands forward. A highly compressed black flame orb, emitting an ominous aura, whistled towards the restrained Milam. Boom! The black flame orb hit precisely, and the violent explosion completely engulfed Milam, with black flames burning fiercely. Did it succeed? Benimaru stared intently at the center of the flames. However, the next moment, the thick smoke dispersed, revealing Milam completely unharmed, not even a speck of dirt on her clothes. She even patted away non-existent dust from her body, an excited expression on her face. Oh, what a powerful attack. The temperature is very high, and the impact is very strong. If it were any other demon lord, they might really be in trouble. Her words seemed like genuine praise, but this only made Benimaru and the others feel a chill in their hearts. Immediately after, Milam became slightly more serious, she bent her knees slightly. And a suffocating, dominating aura suddenly erupted with her as the center. But, it's useless against me. Boom! An invisible shockwave, like a tsunami, instantly spread. A huge circular pit was pushed out from Milam's center. Shion, Benimaru, Soe, didn't even have time to react. Feeling as powerless as fallen leaves caught in a whirlwind. All were sent flying backward, falling awkwardly to the ground, unable to get up for a short while. Seeing the executives instantly knocked back by Milam's powerful aura, Rimuru felt anxious but had to maintain composure. He quickly stepped forward, simultaneously giving Charlotte Tempest a look behind him. Charlotte Tempest, beside him, shook his head helplessly. And with a raise of his hand, a soft yet vibrant emerald green light enveloped the fallen Shion, Benimaru, and the others. This was the new healing magic, Breath of Life, he instantly conceived and created. Its effect gentle and swift, repairing the slight shock injuries they sustained from the domineering impact. By this time, Rimuru had walked up to Milam. Milam still asked in her confident, yet to others, oppressive tone. What, do you want to dance with me too? Referring to fighting. Rimuru looked at the demon lord before him, who possessed destructive power but had the personality of a little girl, and his mind raced. A head-on confrontation was definitely the worst strategy, he had to outsmart her. He suddenly had a flash of inspiration, thinking of the precious, secret weapon, in his stomach. He took a deep breath, put on a serious and earnest expression, and challenged Milam. Milam, right. You're very strong. If you're confident, how about you take one of my moves? This suggestion immediately piqued Milam's immense interest. She loved new and fun things the most. Oh. Sounds good, okay. She readily agreed, but then put her hands on her hips, revealing a mischievous smile as she added a condition. However, if this move of yours is useless against me, you'll have to be my minion. And you'll have to play with me forever. She lightly landed on the ground, confronting Rimuru dozens of meters apart. In an instant, the surroundings seemed to fall into an eerie silence. The wind seemed to stop flowing, and all observers held their breath. The air was thick, as if substantial, with only the invisible auras of the two colliding. An extreme sense of urgency, like a gunslinger's duel in the Wild West, arose. As if a world-shattering blow would erupt in the next second. Milam had a relaxed, confident smile on her face, but a hint of seriousness flickered deep in her eyes. She was very curious about what this slime, who could command so many subordinates, could do. Rimuru's expression was focused. He slowly raised his right hand, palm upward. The surrounding magic essence began to frantically gather in his palm, rotating, compressing, emitting a faint hum. The light grew brighter and brighter, eventually forming a rapidly spinning energy ball radiating a warm golden glow. This energy ball was not filled with destructive power, instead, it emitted a strange, enticing sweet fragrance. Oh, what new move is this? Milam tilted her head curiously, not only without caution but even leaning closer, like a kitten attracted by a cat toy. Just at this moment of extreme tension. Take this. Rimuru suddenly let out a low roar and abruptly launched himself, rushing towards Milam like an arrow shot from a bow. His target was surprisingly Milam's open mouth, which was about to speak. Milam was completely unprepared for this kind of attack, and was momentarily stunned. It was in this moment of stupefaction that Rimuru had already rushed in front of her, gently and accurately placing the golden, fragrant, Rasengan right into her mouth. Taste 10,000 critical strikes. The energy ball melted upon entering her mouth, instantly releasing the concentrated essence of the finest honey, brewed by a pedo from top-grade magic flowers, which Rimuru and Shuna had tasted in the forest before. That explosively delicious taste, rich in layers, sweet and mellow, with a dreamy floral scent and pure magic essence. A shock to Milam's taste buds. Like a tsunami, assaulted Milam's taste buds. For Milam, who had always subsisted mainly on raw meat or simply cooked food and had never encountered such exquisite delicacies. This was simply opening the door to a new world. Milam's eyes instantly widened, filled with an unbelievable light. Her entire being seemed to have been paused, frozen in place. Immediately after, an unprecedented, extreme sense of happiness shot directly from her taste buds to the top of her head. Pwah! She suddenly covered her cheeks. Her small face visibly turning crimson at a visible speed. And steam even seemed to rise visibly from the top of her head. So delicious What is this? How can there be such delicious food in the world? The invincible demon lord's aura from moments ago instantly vanished. Replaced by a little girl who was so excited by the peerless delicacy that she was incoherent and gesticulating wildly. She grabbed Rimuru's arm, her eyes sparkling, full of desire. Everyone watched this dramatic turn of events, dumbfounded. Especially Benimaru, Shion, and the others, who had just tried their best but couldn't even harm Milam's clothes. Their expressions were incredibly complex. Rimuru looked at the demon lord, who had been completely captured by the honey, and secretly breathed a sigh of relief, a triumphant smile on his face. Seeing the longing and conflict in Milam Nava's big sky-blue eyes for honey. Rimuru smirked inwardly, but deliberately put on a troubled expression, sighing and saying, "Oh, what a pity. This delicious honey, I originally wanted to share a bit more. But since you don't want to admit defeat, then forget it." As he spoke, he made a gesture to put away the remaining honey in his hand. Wait a minute. Milam Nava stamped her foot in a hurry, her small face full of struggle. The temptation of deliciousness clawed at her heart like a kitten's paw, but her pride as a demon lord made her unwilling to easily bow her head. So cunning. Too cunning. Seeing that the time was right, Rimuru decided to add fuel to the fire. He turned his head, winked at Charlotte Tempest, who was watching from the side, and called out in a drawn-out voice, "Charlotte, Charlotte Tempest understood, and immediately broke into an incomparably happy and satisfied smile, as if he had just tasted supreme deliciousness. He gracefully walked to Rimuru's side, and very naturally reached out his arms to intimately hug one of Rimuru's arms. Rubbing his cheek like a spoiled cat, and said in a sickly sweet voice, It's truly delicious. Thank you, Lord Rimuru. As expected, Lord Rimuru is the best. I like Lord Rimuru the most. His movements were incredibly fluid, and the dependence and joy in his tone sounded so genuine and flawless. As if that bite of honey had truly brought him immense happiness, completely conquered by the food. Rimuru also cooperatively stroked Charlotte Tempest's hair. Then deliberately shook the golden honey in his hand and said to Milam Nava in a regretful tone. Oh dear, look, there really isn't much left of such delicious stuff. If you don't eat it soon, it might be gone, you know. This series of combination punches completely broke through Milam Nava's psychological defense. She looked at Rimuru and Charlotte Tempest, who were, lovingly, sharing the food. And then thought of the deliciousness that was about to disappear. She was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan, pacing in circles. Finally, as if she had made some huge decision, she suddenly stopped, clenched her small fists, looked up at Rimuru, and loudly proposed in a tone that wanted to maintain her dignity yet couldn't help but crave. A draw. Yes. How about a draw? That way no one loses. That should be fine, right? Rimuru deliberately drew out the sound, with an expression that said, the conditions aren't sincere enough. Seeing this, Milam Nava immediately added eagerly, fearing that Rimuru would go back on his word. Of course. I promise not to attack this city and your subordinates in the future. Can I? After speaking, she clasped her hands together, making a pitiful yet incomparably cute pleading gesture. Her big sky blue eyes blinking at Rimuru. Charlotte Tempest, standing beside Rimuru, looked at Milam Nava in this state, feeling his heart melt, and couldn't help but blurt out. Rimuru, give it to her. Rimuru looked at Charlotte Tempest somewhat unexpectedly, not thinking that his friend would be the first to surrender. He smiled helplessly. Since Charlotte Tempest had said so, he would no longer tease Milam Nava. All right, seeing as you're so sincere, Rimuru said, taking out a small jar of gleaming golden honey. And before handing it to Milam Nava, he added another condition. However, you have to be good and not cause trouble here. We've agreed, okay? Milam Nava's little head bobbed like a chick pecking at rice. Her eyes fixed on the jar of honey, drool almost flowing out. Only then did Rimuru hand over the honey jar. Milam Nava snatched it, jumping up and down with excitement like a child who had received the most precious toy, hugging the honey jar tightly. Her small face beaming with pure joy. Wow. Honey. It's mine. Charlotte Tempest looked at Milam Nava, who was holding the honey jar and was so happy she forgot herself. Especially her lack of demon lord demeanor, like a satisfied kitten, and was once again struck by her cuteness, murmuring. So cute. He walked forward, unable to resist reaching out and gently stroking Milam Nava's head as she was engrossed in tasting the honey. Milam Nava just mumbled an indistinct, seemingly not minding, and continued to immerse herself in her honey world. Not far away, Benimaru watched this dramatic scene and sincerely exclaimed. As expected of Lord Rimuru and Lord Charlotte Tempest, to resolve the conflict with Demon Lord Milam Nava in such an unexpected way. So simply. Xian pushed up her glasses, her tone filled with absolute trust in her master. However, precisely because it is our master, it's not at all strange that he can achieve such a feat. Ho ho ho. Hakuro, who had quietly appeared nearby at some point, stroked his beard and let out a meaningful yet relieved laugh. With the misunderstanding resolved, Kurenai, Hakuro, and the others, seeing that the two lords had the situation under control, respectfully withdrew and returned to their posts to continue bustling for the celebration. Only Rimuru, Charlotte Tempest, and Milam Nava, who was engrossed in the delicious honey, remained in the clearing. Rimuru and Charlotte Tempest exchanged glances, deciding to seize this opportunity to pry for information. Rimuru spoke first, his tone light and natural. Speaking of which, Milam Nava, you just said you're a demon lord, right? Oh, I was so busy talking, I haven't formally introduced myself yet. I'm Rimuru Tempest. Charlotte Tempest, beside him, lazily chimed in, Charlotte Tempest. Milam Nava licked the honey from the corner of her mouth, puffed out her small chest, and replied in a cute tone with a hint of pride. I am the demon lord known as the Tyrant of Destruction, Milam Nava. I heard you defeated the pig-headed emperor, and thought you seemed quite interesting, so I came to say hello. Just to say hello. Then, as if she thought of something, her sky-blue eyes sparkled with curiosity as she looked at Rimuru and Charlotte Tempest. Oh, right, Charlotte Tempest, Rimuru, you two are clearly very strong, why don't you become demon lords? Charlotte Tempest's golden eyes flickered slightly upon hearing this, seeming to genuinely consider the question, but he didn't answer immediately. Rimuru, on the other hand, waved his hand with an air of annoyance. Huh. Demon Lord. Why would I do something so troublesome? But he then asked with a bit of curiosity, speaking of which, what are the benefits of being a demon lord? Milam Nava tilted her head, trying hard to think of benefits, then a proud and cute smile appeared on her face. As if sharing some amazing secret. Demon lords can freely show off their power to demon folk and humans. Rimuru listened, then shook his head, uninterested. Doesn't sound very appealing. He really couldn't get excited about showing off his strength. Yua. Milam Nava didn't expect her first benefit to be rejected. Feeling a bit frustrated, but immediately thought of another one, her eyes lighting up as she excitedly added. And you can freely and loudly shout out your skill names when activating your exclusive skills. Super cool. Just like this. Dragon Star Blazing Ruin. Wahahaha. She even impromptu struck a cool pose. Rimuru looked at the demon lord before him, who was incredibly proud of being able to shout out skill names loudly. Is she a child? Milam Nava. Charlotte Tempest. Milam Nava didn't understand why such a cool thing would be interesting. While Charlotte Tempest was a bit surprised by Rimuru's complete indifference, as he himself found it quite appealing. To change the subject, and also out of curiosity, Charlotte Tempest asked Milam Nava. Speaking of which, Milam Nava, you just said we're very strong, how did you determine that? We haven't really fought in front of you yet, have we? Upon hearing this, Milam Nava immediately puffed out her small chest proudly and pointed a finger at her beautiful sky blue eyes. HMPH tilde of course, I saw it with my dragon eyes. Milam Nava's dragon eyes could see through an opponent's magic essence amount, ability strength, and even their essence, possessing extremely strong insight and analytical abilities. The amount of magic essence contained in your bodies is enormous. Especially Charlotte Tempest, it feels bottomless. Charlotte Tempest nodded thoughtfully upon hearing this. Being able to see through magic essence and the essence of abilities, it has a similar effect to my eyes of truth. He gained a more intuitive understanding of Milam Nava's abilities. At this moment, Milam Nava once again eagerly extended an invitation to the two. So, Rimuru, Charlotte Tempest, become demon lords. Then we'll be companions. It'll definitely be a lot of fun. Rimuru still had that annoyed attitude and refused without hesitation. No. Being a demon lord sounds too tiring, and I can't see any necessity for it. Why? Saying this, Milam Nava grabbed Rimuru, kneading him forcefully, causing Rimuru's entire slime body to be squeezed and deformed. Being a demon lord will definitely be fun. Let go. Rimuru struggled to jump out of her demonic grasp. Is there nothing fun about being a demon lord besides fighting? Rimuru retorted. See, you yourself know there's nothing fun about being a demon lord. Doesn't that mean Rimuru is doing something more interesting than becoming a demon lord? So cunning. I'm angry. After saying that, she grabbed Rimuru again, hugging him tightly and kneading him fiercely. So cunning. Let me join you and become companions. Then take me to play in the city. Are you a spoiled child? And I have so many things to do. Rimuru struggled to break free from her demonic grip. Milam Nava sat dumbfounded, maintaining her previous posture. Alright, I understand, I'll take you, but from now on, you have to call me and Charlotte Tempest, Mr. Milam Nava put her hands on her hips and pouted. You too, you have to call me Lord Milam. How about this, we'll call you Milam Nava, and you can just call us by our names. Fine then, but, you two are exceptions, only demon lord companions can call me Milam Nava. At this moment, to Rimuru's utter surprise, Charlotte Tempest, his friend who had always stood with him and jointly managed the country, suddenly betrayed him. Charlotte Tempest tilted his head slightly, seemingly considering Milam Nava's proposal seriously. Then a flicker of interest appeared in his golden eyes. And he said in his unique, slightly lazy yet clear tone. Demon Lord. I can do that. That's great. Milam Nava instantly burst into cheers, excitedly pouncing like a small cannonball. along with the honey jar she was holding, into Charlotte Tempest's embrace. Now we're companions, Charlotte Tempest. Charlotte Tempest was amused by her enthusiastic gesture, caught her smoothly, and gently patted her back. Then, the two newly appointed, Demon Lord companions, one big and one small, turned their gaze towards the dumbfounded Rimuru. Milam Nava's gaze was expectant, while Charlotte Tempest's gaze held a hint of, "I think it's quite fun, aren't you going to consider it?" encouragement. But as expected, Rimuru looked at this bizarre combination and shook his head like a rattled drum. No, no, no. I still refuse. Absolutely not. If you want to play Demon Lord games, go play by yourselves. Speaking of which, Charlotte Tempest, you left me alone with the paperwork and ran off to play. Ahaha, Rimuru, you are free. If you don't want to be one, then don't be one. Charlotte Tempest surrendered at light speed. HMPH. He felt he completely couldn't understand Charlotte Tempest's sudden interest in Milam Nava's thought process. Rimuru looked at Milam and asked a crucial question. Speaking of which, Milam, how did you know we defeated the pig-headed emperor, and why did you specifically come looking for us? Milam, who was licking honey, paused her movements upon hearing this, showed a slight look of difficulty, and shook her finger. This is something I can't say. I have a non-disclosure agreement with the other demon lords. Although Milam didn't say it outright, Rimuru and Charlotte exchanged a look, and they understood in their hearts. As expected, the other demon lords are behind this, trying to use Milam, this sharp blade, to probe us. Rimuru had figured it out and stopped pressing the issue. To change the subject, and to keep this new companion docile, Rimuru suggested. Alright, let's not talk about that. Milam, do you want to tour our city, Lilam, with us? Okay. As soon as Milam heard she could sightsee, she immediately threw the agreement out of her mind and excitedly agreed. Thus, Charlotte and Rimuru took the little ancestor they had just kidnapped, Milam, and began strolling through the city of Lilam. They hadn't walked far when they ran into Gabiru, who was strutting toward them, tossing his head of beautiful hair. Gabiru saw an unfamiliar pink-haired little girl walking beside Rimuru and Lord Charlotte. Gabiru bent down, looked at Milam in front of him, and delivered a soul-searching question in his characteristic, slightly curious tone. Oh my! Who is this little squirt? Before he could finish his sentence, Milam's small face instantly darkened. She didn't speak, but her figure vanished like a phantom. The next second, she reappeared in front of Gabiru, and a small fist moved at a speed impossible for the naked eye to track, solidly planting itself on Gabiru's surprised face. Bang! Wah! Gabiru let out a scream. And his entire body was launched backward, as if shot from a catapult, plowing a 10-meter-long trench in the ground before finally stopping, collapsing onto the ground, and falling asleep. Who did you call a little squirt? Do you want to be slaughtered? Rimuru clutched his forehead internally in exasperation. Hey, we just agreed that she wouldn't start randomly hitting people. But outwardly, he still had to maintain order, speaking in his uniquely cute voice while trying hard to sound serious. I'm telling you, Milam tilde, even if someone makes you angry, you can't immediately resort to violence, okay? You have to talk things out first. Milam pouted her little mouth, wearing an expression that said, I did nothing wrong, and declared righteously. It's the person who made me angry who's bad. Why did he call me a little squirt? However, despite what she said, judging by the fact that she didn't pursue the attack, she had listened to Rimuru somewhat. Gabiru, off to the side, was seeing stars and had been struck into a near-death state. But a closer look revealed that his injuries were actually very precise, only causing him to instantly lose mobility, without causing irreversible damage. Milam truly had a mastery of her power. Charlotte shook his head, walked over, and casually cast a healing spell to pull Gabiru out of immediate danger. Gabiru slowly woke up, gazing blankly at the sky and muttering to himself. This one thought he saw his father from the other shore waving at him just now. Rimuru couldn't help but retort, hey! Mr. Abel, Lizardman King, is still alive and well. Gabiru shook his still dizzy head and climbed up from the ground. Perhaps because he had been knocked unconscious, he briefly forgot the lesson he had just learned. Looking at Milam, he subconsciously started speaking again. Speaking of which, this little squirt. Milam immediately darkened her face again, glaring at Gabiru with a terrifying expression. Seeing this, Charlotte quickly grabbed Milam from behind, hugging her tightly to prevent her from going berserk again. Calm down, Milam, calm down. Milam, being held, struggled twice but found she couldn't break free, or perhaps she didn't truly want to. Finally, she reluctantly pouted cutely and settled down. Gabiru was breaking out in cold sweat from Milam's glare, and he finally swallowed the little squirt that was on the tip of his tongue, changing his words. Who is this, young lady? Seeing this, Rimuru took the opportunity to pull Milam, who was still pouting despite being held. Preparing to introduce her to the monsters drawn by the commotion. I'm telling you, Gabiru, this person is a demon lord, you know, Charlotte reminded him. Demon lord. Yes, I totally understand how you feel right now. Rimuru thought to himself. Rimuru and Charlotte stood with Milam in front of the fountain statue in the central plaza. Rimuru cleared his throat, attracting the attention of the busy monsters around them. Everyone. Let me introduce you all. Rimuru pointed to Milam, who was curiously looking around beside him. This is our new companion, and for now, an important guest. I hope everyone will treat her politely. Milam cooperated by stepping forward, puffing out her small chest, and proudly announcing, Milam Nava. However, for the monsters in the Jura Great Forest who grew up listening to the legends of the demon lords, this name was nothing short of a thunderclap. The plaza instantly fell into dead silence, followed by an earth-shattering eruption of gasps and chatter. Wah! What? Demon Lord Milam. Is that the legendary Lord Demon Lord Milam? I'm seeing Lord Milam in person for the first time. Gobta excitedly jumped up. As expected of Lord Rimuru and Lord Charlotte. They even made that lord their companion. The mature and steady Rigurd was so excited that tears welled up, and he pulled out a handkerchief to wipe his eyes. Woo-woo. To be able to be so close to the legendary tyrant of destruction. Now the future of our Rimuru Tempest Federation is truly safe and secure. Rimuru looked at the scene, where the monsters were not afraid but instead full of respect and welcoming enthusiasm, and secretly sighed. It seems Milam is incredibly famous here, and everyone is, surprisingly friendly toward her. Before he could finish his thoughts, Milam dropped another bombshell. She happily announced loudly to all the monsters. Starting today, I'll be living here. Please take care of me. Rimuru's eyes instantly widened, and his slime form looked slightly inflated. He hadn't expected Milam to unilaterally decide to stay permanently. Charlotte, on the side, had no special reaction, still looking languid, as if he didn't care. And the surrounding monsters once again erupted in even more fervent cheers. Rimuru, slightly flustered, leaned closer to Milam and asked in a low voice, wait a minute. What do you mean by living here? Milam had a completely matter-of-fact expression. It means exactly what it says. I think there's delicious honey here, and Charlotte and Rimuru, you guys are fun. So I've decided to live here. Seeing Milam's, I decide everything, expression and the highly expectant gazes of the surrounding monsters. Rimuru could only sigh helplessly, turn to everyone, and announce. Fine, since she herself has said so, then, I hope everyone will take good care of her from now on. The monsters' cheers nearly tore the sky open. Rimuru watched Milam being so popular and internally complained, so popular. Is this girl some kind of idol star? Milam seemed to enjoy the feeling of being the center of attention, and she added. If you have any trouble in the future, you can rely on me. I'm very strong. The cheers reached a new peak. Rimuru looked at the scene and couldn't help but mutter under his breath, becoming friends with a legendary demon lord, this development is truly. Charlotte, who heard him, interjected mildly, I think it's fine. He thought having such an interesting companion was quite good. Milam also heard Rimuru's whisper. She tilted her head, showing a slightly embarrassed expression, and corrected him. Rimuru, rather than friend. Saying this, she suddenly stretched out both arms and simultaneously hugged the round slime, Rimuru, and the little dragon, Charlotte, next to him, pulling them into her embrace. A brilliant, slightly shy, yet incredibly sincere smile bloomed on her face. It's better to say, besties. Right. She looked at the two she was hugging with watery, sky blue eyes and a cute, pleading expression. Charlotte was hugged rather suddenly, but looking at Milam's expression, he couldn't help but smile and nod. Rimuru was slightly stunned by the sudden hug and the besties declaration. Looking at Milam's irresistibly cute face, he quickly responded, "Ah, yes, yes, yes. Besties, we are besties." Hearing this, supreme relationship confirmation, all the monsters in the audience completely erupted, letting out the loudest cheer of the day. Ooh. That night, to host their newly acquired bestie, Rimuru and the others took Milam to the hot springs. Rimuru originally wanted to struggle a bit and go to the men's bath, but Charlotte grabbed him around the neck and grinning, dragged him towards the women's bath. His slime form looked a bit comical. What's there to be shy about? We're all good buddies, let's go together. Rimuru was, reluctantly, dragged inside. Charlotte, you've really put me through the ringer. Hey, wait, UWUWU. Wow. This is amazing. It feels so good. As soon as Milam entered the hot springs, she excitedly splashed around, finding the hot water pool completely novel. I can even swim, she said, immediately wanting to take a couple of laps. Xian, who had always longed for a cute little sister, looked at Milam's innocent and naive appearance. Felt her heart melting from the cuteness, and her eyes were filled with a glow that screamed, I want to take her home. The gentle Shuna quickly tried to dissuade her. That won't do, Lord Milam. You can't swim in the hot springs, it will disturb others, and it's also dangerous. Xian, hearing this, let out a slightly disappointed, seeming to think that letting Milam swim a bit wouldn't hurt. Shuna, meanwhile, pouted, Dame Dayo, you can't spoil her too much. Xian lowered her head in disappointment. Meanwhile, Charlotte and Rimuru were soaking in the warm spring water, looking completely relaxed. It must be said that hot springs are indeed very relaxing, and the magnificent view, in the distance referring to mountains, or the starry sky, and, well, also lifted the spirits. After bathing, everyone changed into comfortable yukata and went to a quiet lounge. The main executive sat kneeling on the side, and the atmosphere became slightly more serious. Rigurd was the first to speak, his tone carrying a trace of solemnity, regarding Lord Milam's visit to our nation and becoming a bestie. Gurren laughed heartily, breaking the slightly formal atmosphere. Ha. I never thought the legendary demon lord would just show up in person and become our neighbor. What an unexpected turn of events. Charlotte leaned languidly on the cushion and interjected. It's fine. Don't let her appearance fool you, she's actually very obedient, as long as you don't make her angry. Rimuru also added, with a hint of helplessness. We tentatively agreed that she shouldn't fight around here. He recalled Gabiru's miserable state. At this moment, Kijin stroked his chin and brought up a more practical concern. Yes, Lord Milam's matter is important, but what we should probably be considering more now is the movements of the other demon lords, right? He looked around and continued, there is more than one demon lord. They have always maintained a delicate balance, keeping each other in check. Now that the lords, referring to Rimuru and Charlotte, have declared themselves besties with Lord Milam, this will undoubtedly shatter the existing balance. We must be wary of how the other demon lords will react. No sooner had he finished speaking than Charlotte, in a casual tone as if discussing what's for dinner tonight, dropped an even more astonishing piece of news. But I've already decided to become a demon lord, you know. What? Except for Rimuru and Milam, everyone present, Benimaru, Soe, Hekuro, and Gurren, was startled. Their gazes simultaneously focusing on Charlotte. Benimaru was the quickest to recover, analyzing calmly. In other words, the balance, or whatever you call it, was already broken the moment Lord Charlotte made this decision. Kijin opened his mouth, then finally smiled helplessly. Lord Charlotte, you really are silent until you strike, but when you do, it shakes the heavens. Charlotte tilted his head, seemingly not understanding why everyone was so surprised, and said in an unsure tone. It should probably be fine, right? Hekuro, who had been resting with his eyes closed, now let out his characteristic laugh. Oh ho, this is great. Our Lilim is now a city personally guarded and protected by a demon lord. That is truly reassuring. Benimaru and the others nodded in agreement, showing relieved expressions. Indeed. Furthermore, we have Lord Milam, the oldest and strongest, whom we absolutely must not antagonize, as a bestie. With this, there really isn't much to worry about excessively, is there? Oh ho 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 tilde. The atmosphere of the meeting shifted from initial caution to shock upon hearing Charlotte's decision, and finally settled back into a strange sense of optimism and security. After all, for monsters, having a powerful protector is the greatest source of security. And the Rimuru Tempest Federation, overnight, seemed to have gained backing far beyond imagination. The Kingdom of Bloomond. The Freedom Association Guild Branch. The Council Room. The atmosphere inside the room was heavy. Baron Beluard, who had come from the royal capital, was dressed in refined noble attire, his brow furrowed as his fingertips lightly tapped the smooth tabletop. Seated opposite him was Fizz, the guild master of the local Freedom Association branch, an experienced manager of adventurers with sharp eyes. Baron Beluard cleared his throat, his tone carrying clear uncertainty and worry. Although Miss Elan and her teammates did visit that monster village, oh no. According to the latest intelligence, they seem to have declared the establishment of a nation. He paused, seemingly finding the term monster nation extremely awkward. A nation composed of monsters, that alone sounds outrageous enough. Guild Master Fizz maintained his composure and replied. However, Baron, the report Elan and the others brought back was very clear. They emphasized that the leader of this monster nation, named Tempest, has no intention of invasion. And even helped them when they faced danger. Their evaluation was not dangerous, even friendly. Baron Beluard shook his head, leaning forward and lowering his voice, as if afraid of being overheard. That place is the territory of the storm dragon Beldora. It has been an absolute forbidden zone for ages. Daring to establish a nation on that land, that itself proves the issue. Furthermore, the S-rank suspected dragon-shaped monster mentioned in Elan's report, the one that annihilated the pig-headed emperor in one blow, will it become a second Beldora? Can its promises truly be trusted? Haven't we seen enough of the monster's cunning? Guild Master Fizz crossed his hands on the table, his gaze steady. Regarding the storm dragon, the intelligence Elan brought back in our subsequent magical monitoring both confirm that Beldora's suffocating aura has indeed completely vanished, for reasons unknown. As for that S-rank dragon-shaped monster, all current observations and contact reports suggest it is harmless. Even displaying a degree of orderliness. It seems to maintain the operation of that nation alongside the slime leader. He changed the subject, nodding understandingly. However, I understand your concerns, or rather, His Majesty the King's worries. To be honest, even with the assurance of my reliable teams, I myself cannot be entirely at ease facing a suddenly appearing neighboring nation with unknown powerful monsters. He stood up, looking at Baron Beluard with a determined gaze. Therefore, I have decided to go there myself. In my capacity as the Guild Master of the Freedom Association branch, and with the discerning eye of an experienced adventurer. I will once again confirm the true situation of this monster nation and evaluate whether it poses a potential threat to the human kingdom. Only by seeing it with my own eyes can I make the most responsible judgment and ensure the safety of the border and the people of the kingdom. Baron Beluard looked at Fizz's resolute expression, knowing that persuasion was useless and that this was currently the most reliable method. He sighed, his tone softening slightly, carrying a hint of imperceptible concern. Alas, since you have decided. Guild Master Fizz, please, be sure to stay safe. The intelligence you bring back this time, regardless of the outcome, I will faithfully present to His Majesty the King. This concerns the future border policy of the kingdom. Fizz nodded. I understand. I will depart as soon as possible. The Forest of Rimuru Tempest. Fizz, the guild branch master of the Freedom Association, walked in the middle of the group, his sharp gaze constantly scanning the surroundings. Leading the way for him were the heavy swordsman Captain Kabaru, the sturdy thief Guido, and the magic girl Elan's team, all of whom had previous contact experience. Speaking of which, last time we came, we were chased quite badly by those big red ants. Guido spoke with lingering fear as he nimbly jumped over a fallen dead tree. Elan also laughed upon hearing this, lightly tapping her staff on the ground. That's right, we thought we were finished then. I never expected not only to be saved but also to witness such an incredible monster town. Kabaru, carrying his greatsword, grinned. Haha. This proves that when I lead the team, we always turn misfortune into fortune. Though we really owe it to Miss Shizu that time. When he mentioned Miss Shizu, his tone lowered slightly, but he quickly cheered up. Anyway, Lord Rimuru, and Lord Charlotte, whom we haven't met before, are truly amazing to be able to govern the monsters so well. Fizz, who had been silently observing, spoke now, his tone cautious. For you to give such high praise, I am even more eager for the sights this trip will bring. However, monsters are monsters after all, and we must remain vigilant. As they chatted, the topic somehow drifted into a strange direction. Kabaru's stomach suddenly rumbled, and he awkwardly scratched his head. Hee, speaking of which, that roast meat in Tempest, it's truly unforgettable. Guido's eyes immediately lit up, and he swallowed. Exactly. That steak, crispy outside and tender inside, the feeling of the juice bursting in your mouth when you bite into it. Elan also chuckled, covering her mouth, her eyes full of longing, and the juices pressed from fruits we've never seen before, so sweet and refreshing. Even Fizz, who had maintained a serious demeanor, couldn't help but gently swallow as he listened to his teammates' vivid descriptions. And asked with slight curiosity, is it really that delicious? Absolutely. The three spoke in unison, their faces displaying silly smiles of intense nostalgia and gluttony. However, joy turned to sorrow. Just as they were immersed in memories of delicious food, they passed a strange wood forest covered in pale spiderwebs. Kabaru's old bad habit flared up again. He saw a huge cave from which viscous liquid was constantly dripping, and unable to resist the urge, he casually jabbed it hard with his sword hilt. Kabaru. Don't. Elan's startled cry came too late. Hiss. Accompanied by a sharp, teeth-grinding shriek, 4A- rank monsters, huge and robust like Tyrannosaurus rexes, with sharp, spear-like legs. Spear-leg spiders. Suddenly rushed out of the cave. Their scarlet compound eyes instantly locked onto the group, especially the culprit, Kabaru. Run! Guido shrieked and turned to flee. Elan ran while lifting her robe, exasperated. Kabaru, you idiot. Why are you so reckless again? Guido also wailed. Lord Kabaru. When will you ever fix this irresponsible habit of yours? Kabaru looked back as he ran, stubbornly arguing, shut up. I was checking for potential threats for the team. Even Fizz couldn't help but growl as he desperately fled. Kabaru. I'll settle the score with you later. The four spear-leg spiders were incredibly fast, their sharp legs stabbing continuously like spears at the spot where the group had just been, forcing the group into a sorry state. Just as they were about to be overtaken, another human team suddenly appeared around the corner of the path ahead. Leading them was a young swordsman who looked travel-worn but whose eyes were as steady and resolute as bedrock. Followed by several teammates who were also well-equipped and vigilant. What's going on? The young swordsman, Yumu, saw Kabaru's team running wildly and the four ferocious spiders in close pursuit. Although surprised, his reaction was extremely fast. Get out of the way! He shouted, lunged forward, and his longsword traced a sharp arc. A solid sword energy slash forced the two leading spiders to retreat, gaining Kabaru and the others a moment to breathe. His team members also immediately stepped forward, forming a defensive formation. Help us! Elan cried out as if she had seen a savior. Hold on. We are evenly matched in numbers, we can handle this. Yumu commanded steadily. His swordsmanship was solid and ruthless, every strike aimed directly at the spider's joints, demonstrating extensive combat experience. What's happening here? Oh my! Isn't that Miss Elan? A familiar voice rang out. Gobta, riding his wolf, arrived at a gallop, leading a wolf cavalry patrol team. Mr. Gobta. Elan shouted in surprise. Leave it to us. At Gobta's command, the wolf cavalry joined the battle like a whirlwind. With this fresh force, the situation instantly reversed. Under the coordinated efforts of Yumu's team and Gobta's patrol team, the four spear-leg spiders were quickly slain on the spot. Honestly, Mr. Kabaru, you really need to change this habit of causing trouble. Gobta stood with his hands on his hips, looking helplessly at Kabaru, then commanded his subordinates. Bring the spiders, corpses. Spear leg spider leg meat is a rare delicacy, you know. Take them back for the kitchen to prepare. The shaken group finally breathed a sigh of relief. Kabaru, Guido, and Elan were considered acquaintances. While Fizz and Yumu's team saw the legendary monster city, Lilim, for the first time. Looking at the orderly, uniquely structured town before them, and the various monsters nearby who were not fierce and evil, but instead cast curious glances at them, Fizz, Yumu, and the others were filled with shock and disbelief. They were once again brought to Tempest as guests. Looking at the orderly streets of the Rimuru Tempest Federation, Fizz couldn't help but sigh with admiration. Even if Kabaru and the others exaggerated, this is truly impressive. He turned his head, but the words caught in his throat, he was already alone. Only Elan's voice echoed from a distant corner. Look at this. Followed by the sound of Kabaru and Guido's rapidly receding footsteps. Those guys. Fizz smiled helplessly and shook his head. His core mission on this trip was to confirm whether the disappearance of the storm dragon Veldora was related to this place, and to assess the authenticity and potential threat of the rumored S-rank monster, Charlotte, who was supposedly on par with the slime demon lord. Even though Elan and the others repeatedly guaranteed the area was safe, as a guild branch leader, he never let down his necessary guard. He simply walked leisurely, adopting a when in Rome attitude, and carefully surveyed the monster capital. The streets were wide and clean, with various monsters passing by, all looking peaceful. He even saw goblin clerks wearing professional smiles recommending goods to ogre customers. A patrol team of goblin wolf cavalry marched by in perfect formation. They were highly disciplined and actively gave way to passing monsters, a far cry from their legendary savage image. The sight before him caused Elan's enthusiastic assessment of, "It's peaceful here," in Fizz's mind, to gradually shift from unbelievable to understandable. His previously tense shoulders relaxed without him noticing. The air was filled with the aroma of food and the not unpleasant chatter of monsters, forming a strange, vibrant clamor of daily life. It seems they truly didn't exaggerate. Questions about the storm dragon and the S-rank monster still lingered, but the presumption that this place might still be dangerous had melted away like ice and snow before his very eyes. Just then, a clear, friendly female voice interrupted his thoughts. Are you the Fizz-san that Elan-san and the others mentioned, esteemed guest? A beautiful, graceful female goblin approached him with a smile. I am Gabuna, responsible for hosting the esteemed guests for this banquet. The founding festival banquet is about to begin, and Lord Rimuru and Lord Charlotte will also be attending shortly. Guest, please follow me. Led by Gabuna, Fizz arrived at the central plaza. His gaze was immediately drawn to several gigantic cauldrons in the center of the plaza, resembling small bathtubs. Thick, white broth was bubbling vigorously in the pots, containing the legs of the recently hunted spear-leg spiders. The legs, having been meticulously prepared, displayed an enticing reddish sheen. And the rich aroma, mixed with special spices, aggressively permeated the air, awakening Fizz's taste buds and unconsciously drawing his steps closer. Following the scent, he approached. And indeed found Elan, Kabaru, and Guido already occupying a good spot not far from the giant cauldrons, staring eagerly at the delicious food in the pot. Seeing him arrive, Elan waved happily, and Kabaru shouted loudly, Branch leader. Over here. We were waiting for you. Fizz readily sat down beside them. As soon as he sat down, he heard Lord Rimuru's clear and energetic voice coming from the temporarily erected stage. After a brief but sincere welcoming speech, following Rimuru's call of, now, enjoy yourselves. The welcome banquet officially commenced. His gaze involuntarily turned towards the seating area nearby, which was clearly the head table. He saw Milam sitting beside Charlotte, her energetic legs dangling happily in the air, her bright blue eyes filled with impatience for the food, like a child anticipating candy. And Lord Charlotte beside her, the S-rank monster he needed to observe closely on this trip, had momentarily dropped his usual slightly abstract and languid posture, holding a knife and fork correctly in his hands. His golden eyes were focused on the direction the dishes were being brought from, his expression concentrated, perhaps even bearing a hint of subtle reverence. Just then, Shuna, an ogre girl in an elegant kimono with a gentle and charming demeanor, walked lightly to the main seats, carrying a delicate serving platter. She gently placed a plate of meticulously arranged, intensely fragrant spider leg meat in front of Charlotte, and softly said, "Lord Charlotte, Lord Milam, this is the first batch cooked. Please enjoy. It's finally here. I couldn't wait." Milam immediately leaned closer, her eyes sparkling, her twin tails almost flying as she bounced. Charlotte elegantly used his fork to pick up a small piece of snow-white leg meat and put it to his lips. After savoring it, his golden eyes lit up slightly, and his languid expression was replaced by a genuine hint of pleasure. The heat is perfect, the meat is firm and springy, and the magic essence dissolves in the mouth, truly delicious. He nodded, then looked at Milam, who was practically drooling beside him, a knowing smile playing on his lips. He forked the largest piece of meat from his own plate and offered it to her. "Here, I know you were the most impatient for this. Yay! Charlotte is the best." Milam cheered, accepted it without hesitation, and stuffed it into her mouth with a gulp. Her cheeks immediately puffed out, and she happily squinted her eyes. Delicious. It's even better than honey. The commotion at their table attracted the attention of the surrounding monsters. Someone started the chant, "Uma I tilde. Delicious." This infectious praise immediately resonated, and the entire plaza erupted in the enthusiastic, if uneven, cheers of the monsters. Uma I tilde. Super Uma I. Meanwhile, Elan, Kabaru, and Guido on the other side were already lost in their own world. Whoa! This meat. It's fantastic. Elan completely disregarded her ladylike image, gripping a spider leg larger than her face, eating until her mouth was glistening with oil. Ha ha ha. Your great lord, declare this the best barbecue in the world. Kabaru tossed aside his knife and fork, tearing into the meat with gusto, not bothering to wipe the juice running down his chin. Guido, meanwhile, mumbled incoherently while frantically stuffing his face. This taste, I can die happy. A small mountain of bones had already piled up in front of them, clearly indicating that their battle had long entered a fever pitch. The grand banquet was drawing to a close. Rigurd, the robust goblin king, who had evolved from a frail, elderly goblin, was using his characteristic, energetic, and booming voice to efficiently direct his comrades in clearing the utensils and leftover food from the plaza, moving swiftly and decisively. Please enjoy this rare moment of leisure, everyone. Leave the follow-up work to us. He laughed heartily at the guests who had yet to leave, showing reliability befitting his burly physique. The other sovereign of the Rimuru Tempest Federation, Rimuru in his slime form, sighed contentedly. I'm glad everyone had fun. Well, I must head back to battle, the mountain of paperwork. With that, he squirmed his round body and began moving toward the administrative building. Just as he was about to squirm toward his office, a figure lightly jumped in front of him. It was Elan. Holding her hands together, she looked at Rimuru with fluttering, cute eyes, her tone carrying a perfectly pitched mix of spoiled charm and pleading. "Lord Rimuru tilde. You see, we've been traveling and chased by spiders all the way here, and everyone is exhausted. Could the formal discussion wait until tonight? Please, let us explore a bit more." Kabaru quickly nodded in agreement behind her. That's right, Lord Rimuru. Look at us. We really need some rest and recuperation. Guido also chimed in, his face etched with reluctance to leave the nation's streets. Rimuru's round blue body wiggled slightly, as if chuckling. Followed by his non-electronic voice, sounding like a gentle youth. All right, I understand. Since you put it that way, let's talk tonight. You guys go relax and enjoy your time here. Thank you so much, Lord Rimuru. Elan cheered happily, and then, along with Kabaru and Guido, like three joyful little birds, they rejoined the bustling market of the Rimuru Tempest Federation. As for Charlotte, he had already been seized by an excited Milam tugging at his sleeve. Charlotte, take me to play. I saw lots of cool stuff I haven't seen before over there while we were eating. Her bright blue eyes sparkled in the sunlight, filled with the excitement and anticipation of a neighborhood little sister. Her twin tails seemed ready to fly with her bouncing, making her look exactly like a child captivated by novelty. Charlotte's customary languid expression was now tinged with a rare indulgence for his companion. His golden eyes curved slightly as he allowed Milam to pull him along. Yes, yes, I'll take you now. But, he changed the subject with a playful tone. Don't you dare soft soap me and cling to my arm again just to trick some honey out of Rimuru. Milam immediately puffed out her cheeks and retorted loudly. That's because Rimuru hides all the best honey inside his stomach. He's too stingy. As dusk deepened, the bustling and festive city of Lilam donned a gentle and tranquil veil for the night. The fervent atmosphere of the founding banquet had gradually settled, transforming into a more private and relaxing comfort. Rimuru, who had been busy all day, was finally temporarily freed from the pile of documents. He dragged his slime body, which seemed to move a fraction slower than usual, and let out a heartfelt sigh. Ah, I can finally rest for a bit. Soaking in a hot spring, having a little drink, now that's life. This suggestion immediately received unanimous support from all the male guests. Thus, under Rigurd's guidance, Rimuru, Yumu, Fizz, Kabaru, and Guido, along with the rest of the group, arrived at the open-air hot spring nestled against the mountain in a quiet corner of the city. The rising steam blurred the figures of the men, and the slight intoxication of the fine fruit wine seeped into their limbs. Yumu leaned against the smooth rock wall of the pool and let out a long breath, as if exhaling all the fatigue and tension of the past few days. What a truly unbelievable day. He looked up at the starry sky and was the first to break the silence. I originally thought that entering a monster city would require a life or death resolve. Instead, what I saw was a scene more prosperous and peaceful than many human towns. Heh, brother Yumu, now you know I wasn't lying, right? Kabaru proudly took a gulp of wine, his cheeks flushed. Lord Rimuru and Lord Charlotte, they are absolutely the best. He gave a thumbs up. Guido also narrowed his eyes and agreed. That's right, and this hot spring, it's simply supreme enjoyment. It feels like all the hardship of being chased by spiders was worth it. Fizz was relatively restrained, he took a small sip of the amber fruit wine in his cup. Savoring the lingering fruit aroma and the perfect warmth of the alcohol on his lips, and then spoke. Seeing it with my own eyes certainly goes far beyond the report's description. It's not just their strength, but more importantly, a sense of order, and an incomprehensible tolerance. Lord Rimuru, and Lord Charlotte, what they have established is a true nation. He paused, looking at Rimuru soaking quietly beside him. Who, in his slime form, was floating on the water like a blue hot spring egg. Lord Rimuru, forgive my presumption, but how exactly did you and Lord Charlotte accomplish all this? Rimuru's voice, carrying the laziness and satisfaction of a hot spring soak, drifted over. Ah, well, that's a long story. To be honest, in the beginning, I just wanted to find a safe place for everyone to live peacefully. That Charlotte guy, although he always looks like he's trying to avoid trouble, he's surprisingly reliable when it counts. Before I knew it, we reached the scale we have now. He paused, his tone carrying a trace of an office worker's lament. It's just that the amount of paperwork is terrifying. Everyone couldn't help but laugh, the atmosphere relaxed and harmonious. Unlike the rough sentiments of the men's bath, the women's bath presented a different scene entirely. The hot spring water was misty, blurring the graceful curves. Shuna pleasantly handed everyone hot towels for their faces and refreshing fruit brew. Elan was still a bit reserved, but the warm spring water and friendly atmosphere quickly helped her relax. The focus of the scene was undoubtedly Charlotte and Milam. Charlotte maintained his usual appearance, his blue hair and golden eyes appeared slightly softer in the steam. He leaned against the side of the pool, his expression languid, seemingly enjoying the tranquility. However, that tranquility was quickly shattered. Charlotte tilde. Milam, like a lively fish, splashed closer from the water. Pressing against him without hesitation, and curiously poked his smooth arm with her finger. Your skin is so smooth. It feels even better than mine. She giggled, completely unaware of how bold her actions appeared to humans. Seeing this, Xian's scarlet eyes flashed with a hint of unwillingness to be outdone. She immediately carried a plate of exquisite snacks and took elegant and firm steps to Charlotte's other side, kneeling down obediently to offer the snacks. Lord Charlotte, please partake. It's necessary to replenish sugar after soaking in the hot springs. She leaned in extremely close, her ample weapons nearly touching Charlotte's arm, her tone conveying undeniable closeness. Just then, Shuna also gracefully approached, her gentle cheeks appearing even rosier under the steaming heat. Holding a soft towel, her voice was as soft as a whisper. Lord Charlotte, allow me to scrub your back. Shuna's cheeks were flushed with a blush more intoxicating than the hot spring itself. She spoke gently while taking out the towel and smiling. Charlotte slightly turned his body, tacitly approving Shuna's suggestion. A flash of delight crossed Shuna's eyes. The soft towel gently covered his smooth back, her movements light and careful. Seeing this, Milam also clamored, I want to scrub Charlotte's back too. Xian, however, declared without hesitation, as Lord Charlotte's most loyal subordinate, please entrust such a small task to me. For a moment, Charlotte was trapped in the strange situation of being served by three parties, surrounded by beautiful women on both sides. Making him the most enviable, or perhaps the most suffering existence in the entire women's bath, no, in all of Tempest tonight. Elan, watching from the side, was already blushing fiercely, sinking into the water until only her eyes were visible, her mind filled with internal commentary. Oh dear. Is this the world of the monster lords? It's too stimulating. The visual impact is too strong. Should I quietly slip away? In the hazy steam, this magnificent scene eclipsed even the starry sky, yet for Charlotte. This trouble of happiness might test his composure more than facing thousands of troops. Well, actually, that's nonsense. If only Rimuru were here. Charlotte thought greedily. Surrounded by Shuna's tenderness, Xian's passion, and Milam's innocence. Charlotte was steeped in the languor brought by the hot spring and the subtle awkwardness caused by the three-way flanking. This sensual scene made his golden eyes narrow slightly, like a cat being stroked along its fur. This is truly a scene so peaceful it's almost decadent. Shuna's technique is comfortable, Xian's body is soft, and Milam's intensity is quite amusing. This feeling of being needed and being close isn't bad. However, surrounded by this warmth and beauty, and even more greedy thought quietly surfaced. Forgive me, Rimuru, this is the last time. This thought had nothing to do with romance, it stemmed from a deeper, spiritual resonance and desire for sharing. As a fellow reincarnator from another world, and as the other half, who co-founded this nation, Rimuru was the only existence who could fully understand his complex feelings at this moment. Whether it was this sensual blessing, or this tranquility and satisfaction that transcended worldly desires, he wanted to share it with his blue partner. Tisk, what am I thinking? Charlotte laughed inwardly. That guy must be struggling with diplomatic rhetoric right now. I guess I'll just bear this kind of trouble alone. He shifted slightly, feeling the warm touch emanating from the three women beside him. Suppressing that inexplicable urge to share, and continued to immerse himself in this unique, personal crisis and happiness. After the pleasure of the hot springs, the atmosphere in a reception room in the administrative building that night became much more formal. Elan, Fizz, Yumu, and the others had washed off the travel dust, changed into clean clothes, and were sitting upright. Rimuru, still in his slime form, had his round blue body placed on a special cushion at the head of the table, occupying the central position. To avoid being disturbed, he even utilized the ability of the Wisdom King. Printing several manga from his previous life through memory, such as Water Shadow Ninja, and Ojoje's Bizarre Adventure. Allowing Charlotte and Milam to read quietly in the next room, lest they, mainly Milam, come to disrupt the meeting. The talks seemed to have been going on for a while, and the atmosphere was friendly. Fizz summarized with a solemn expression. In conclusion, through what I witnessed firsthand today, I have fully confirmed that the Rimuru Tempest Federation is a nation with high order and civilization, and one that holds a friendly attitude toward humans. After I return, I will immediately present a detailed report to King Bloomond and formally propose establishing diplomatic relations with your nation. As soon as he finished speaking, Yumu immediately followed, his tone carrying the sincerity and resolve of someone who had weathered hardships. Exactly, Lord Rimuru. Our team will also report the true situation here, exactly as it is, to our superiors. Monsters and humans don't have to be enemies, your nation is the best proof of that. Charlotte and I established this nation with the original intention of providing a stable home for all races willing to coexist peacefully. Mr. Fizz, Yumu, and everyone else, your understanding and support are critically important to us. We look forward to opening a new chapter of friendly exchanges with the Bloomin Kingdom and more human powers. This gentle and sincere voice, combined with the unwavering ideals expressed in his words, completely dispelled the last trace of doubt in the hearts of Fizz and Yumu. They exchanged smiles, both seeing anticipation for the future in the other's eyes. The meeting that evening concluded in a friendly and hopeful atmosphere. Rimuru issued a formal invitation at the opportune moment. 3 days from now, Tempest will hold a grand founding festival. At that time, I hope you all can attend as honored guests and witness this moment firsthand. Saying this, he motioned for Rigurd, who was standing beside him, to present 2 extremely exquisite invitations. The invitations were made from a composite of a special magical wood and metal, with natural patterns that flowed with a faint light. The solidity of dwarf craftsmanship combined perfectly with an elven aesthetic, making their extraordinary quality apparent upon touch. Fizz and Yumu solemnly received them with both hands. These were jointly crafted by our allies, the dwarf craftsmen masters of Dworgen. Rimuru's voice carried a hint of pride. Most importantly, they contain a directional teleportation array set up by Charlotte Kuhn. You only need to silently chant, to Tempest, in your heart. And it will open a temporary teleportation gate capable of holding up to 10 people, making it convenient for you to arrive. As soon as he finished speaking, the venue instantly erupted. Oh. As expected of the masters, to be able to inscribe magic into such exquisite invitations. Even without the magic array inside, the craftsmanship is top-notch, the collection value is immeasurable, truly. Fizz exclaimed, holding the invitation in his hand. Kabaru was the first to jump up, his eyes wide as copper bells. An invitation casually given away as this level of magical artifact. Mr. Rimuru. Mr. Charlotte. You two are too extravagant. That's amazing. Elan covered her mouth with both hands, her eyes full of little stars. Guido rushed forward, staring intently at the invitation in Rigurd's hand. His thief's instinct immediately estimated its value, leading him to a number that left his mind blank. This is just the materials, the craftsmanship, plus the built-in teleportation array. A conservative estimate is 50 gold coins, and if the teleportation array inside is rechargeable, it would be hard to buy even with 1-star gold coin. Mr. Rimuru, works of this quality would probably be difficult for even the dwarf masters of Dworgen to produce in sufficient quantity. Only 10 such invitations have been made so far. We will not be stingy with countries willing to form ties with us. Yumu took the invitation, repeatedly rubbing the warm, power-infused material, his voice filled with unbelievable shock. Mr. Rimuru, this gift is far too heavy. Such technology, such trust. Yumu, will surely not fail this trust. He tightly clasped the invitation to his chest, as if holding the most precious treasure in the world. Feeling the extreme trust, technological prowess, and immeasurable value represented by this invitation. Fizz was equally shaken, but being more composed, his initial shock immediately transformed into immense solemnity. He received it with both hands and bowed deeply. Lord Rimuru, I represent the kingdom of Bloomend, and we shall certainly remember this kindness and trust. In another Japanese-style room filled with a quiet atmosphere. Milam, who had been playing and reading all day, had long since fallen asleep holding a manga book, a satisfied smile hanging on her lips. Charlotte also lay down beside her at some point. His posture was relaxed, his breathing steady, seeming to have been infected by the tranquility and fallen asleep. Because he felt uncomfortable not sleeping, Charlotte had the primordial king turn off, sleep nullification. Shuna tiptoed over and carefully covered them with a soft, thin blanket. Looking at their defenseless sleeping faces, she smiled gently and whispered softly in a barely audible breath. Oyasumi, good night, Lord Charlotte, Lord Milam. She then quietly slipped out of the room. The next morning, Fizz and Yumu, along with their group, rose early to bid farewell to Rimuru and the core members of the Rimuru Tempest Federation. They needed to quickly return to their respective powers. to report the astonishing things they had seen and formally convey their intention to establish diplomatic relations and the invitation to the founding festival. Mr. Rimuru, in 3 days, we will surely arrive on time for the appointment. Yumu saluted with a cupped fist, his tone resolute. Rest assured, Lord Rimuru, the Kingdom of Bloomend will receive the most detailed and positive report. Fizz also bowed and promised. Rimuru, in slime form, wiggled his body and replied with his gentle voice, travel safely. We'll see you in 3 days. However, when attention turned to Elan, Kabaru, and Guido, the atmosphere changed completely. Hey, Guild Master, Mr. Rimuru. Elan clasped her hands together, blinking her eyes repeatedly, using all her charm to plead. Let us stay for just a few more days. We promise not to cause trouble, and we can even help out. Kabaru immediately puffed out his chest and thumped it, guaranteeing, that's right. If there's any odd job or heavy labor, just leave it to this big guy. Guido also nodded frantically beside him, his face clearly displaying the 3 words, don't want to leave. Fizz looked at these treasures of his group, rubbed his temples helplessly, and finally handed the decision over to Rimuru. All right, I understand. Then you can go back after the summer festival is over. However, his tone became slightly more serious, you can't just focus on playing. You need to help Rigard, alright. Yay. That's great, Rimuru. The guild master is the best. Elan and the other 2 immediately cheered, brilliant smiles of successful scheming blooming on their faces. Thus, in the morning light, Fizz and Yumu's party embarked on their journey home with their mission accomplished. While Elan's team joyfully stayed behind, preparing to fully immerse themselves in the grand, upcoming celebration of the Rimuru Tempest Federation. Tempest, after a brief burst of excitement, entered the final 3 days of tranquility and preparation before the founding festival. The air was filled with anticipation and the scent of busyness. Between the Farmus Kingdom and the Ingratia Kingdom, there existed a nation that practiced strict autocratic monarchy. The Shiltros Kingdom. Nominally, it was no different from other human nations. But secretly, this nation ruled by the Zoro family. Its influence had already permeated like a spiderweb and effectively controlled the Western nations. In this world overrun by monsters and fraught with crises, the unity of human nations was essential for survival. For this purpose, the Western Council came into being, aiming to coordinate affairs between nations and jointly address threats. However, for hundreds of years, the authority of this institution, which was supposed to represent fairness and cooperation, had been firmly held by one person. That was an old man known as Great Ancestor Zoro, Granbell Zoro. His age was a mystery, his seniority unfathomable. It was he who, hundreds of years ago, unified the loose council with an iron fist and wisdom. Today, the council's real power is held by the 5 elders, and Granbell Zoro, above the 5 elders, is the supreme arbiter in the shadows. Within the Shiltros Kingdom, the head of the Zoro family is theoretically the nation's supreme leader. However, the current family head is merely an extension of Granbell's will. This reclusive great ancestor, even direct members of the Zoro family, such as princesses and even the king, have no right to easily meet him. He transcends worldly kingship, like a deity overlooking a chess game. It should have been this way. Mariabel Zoro, princess of the Shiltros Kingdom, was the only exception to this strict rule. She, who should have had no connection to the family's highest power core, received the honor of directly meeting this great ancestor due to some extraordinary quality, wisdom, or potential that even Granbell took notice of. Received the honor of directly meeting this great ancestor. In the solemn, secluded secret chamber deep within the council, the flickering candlelight illuminated Granbell Zoro's wrinkled face, which still held astonishing power. The flickering candlelight illuminated Granbell Zoro's wrinkled face, which still held astonishing power. Standing before him was the young Mariabel. Her expression might have been respectful, but in her intelligent eyes, a sharpness and ambition unbefitting her age flickered. Great-grandfather. Her clear, cold voice echoed in the secret chamber. Regarding the abnormal report from the Juru Great Forest in the east, and that nascent, monster federation, I believe the Council's past response strategy has been too conservative. Granbell's profound gaze fixed on her. No one knew what this old man, who had controlled the fate of Western humanity for hundreds of years, was thinking at this moment. No one knew what this old man, who had controlled the fate of Western humanity for hundreds of years, was thinking at this moment. He merely opened his mouth slowly, his voice hoarse yet carrying an undeniable authority. Tell me your thoughts, little Bell. Perhaps it's time for those compatriots who are content with the status quo to witness the storm of a new era. A few years ago, deep within the Shiltros kingdom's palace, Princess Mariabel Zoro was gazing into the distance from a railing. On her tender yet precocious face, a cold, predatory smile, completely unbefitting her age, appeared. In her mind, a blueprint capable of overturning the entire continent's economic system was swirling. She deeply understood the iron law of civilization's development. From bartering to a monetary economy, and then to the emergence of credit notes. Each leap in financial form was accompanied by a surge in civilization and a redistribution of wealth. And in this world, although it had entered the monetary era, its financial system, in the eyes of this reincarnated, financial prodigy, was as rudimentary as a child's scribble. Paper money, banks, credit creation, lending out non-existent money and collecting real interest, this was closer to magic than any alchemy, and far more insidious. When an irreparable gap appeared between the total circulating cash and credit instruments, the bubble would burst. And in her previous life, what she was best at was inflating this bubble. Then transferring unrecoverable bad debts, like poison, to weaker nations. A cruel, bad debt war. Weak nations perish, the rich grow richer. This set of game rules, which she had mastered to perfection in her previous life, was practically a tailor-made playground for her in this world with a unified language, a single currency, and primitive financial concepts. This transcendent greed and desire for dominance transformed into her source of power, unique skill the covetous one. This was a sin series skill derived from humanity's primal sin, allowing her to glimpse and manipulate the desires of others. The greater the desire, the easier it was to become her puppet. From her personal servants to royal family members, she had quietly added many pawns. However, she knew her wings were not yet fully grown. Before she could shake the world, she had to hide her fangs. Except for one person, her grandfather, Granbel Zoro. The world only knew him as the influential family head and a council elder. But they did not know his true identity was the great ancestor, who had lived for hundreds of years. The eternal dominator behind the Western nations, and once, a man hailed as a hero. At the age of 3, her first formal meeting with Granbel was a blatant showdown. You are Mariabel. Yes. It's a pleasure to meet you, grandfather. Her reply lacked any childish innocence. Why don't you try to manipulate me? Granbel's gaze was profound. There was no longer the radiance of a hero, only the coldness and scrutiny of one who had weathered many changes. Mariabel's the covetous one could see through all desires. But in Granbel, she only saw a desolate wasteland, forcefully suppressed and almost dead, and beneath that desolation, a bitter disappointment with the entire world. Any deception before this person would be futile and dangerous. And beneath that desolation, a bitter disappointment with the entire world. Any deception before this person would be futile and dangerous. She chose honesty. I can see and manipulate people's desires. But you are different. Your inner world is a ruin where even desire is frozen. So, HMPH. You see very clearly. Then, who exactly are you? I am Mariabel, greedy, Mariabel. Upon hearing this, Granbel let out a low, enigmatic laugh. Mariabel won this gamble. The two formed an alliance that transcended ordinary kinship. In the years that followed, Granbel revealed his true past to her. He had once been a righteous hero, witnessing too much human wickedness, even his kind wife dying due to human schemes. The world had left him only with endless deprivation and betrayal. Ideals burned out. The hero fell. He then firmly believed that only through absolute dominance could a twisted peace be forged. He built a vast power, secretly controlling the West, but was already advanced in years. Although his power sustained his life, his heart was weary, struggling to find a worthy successor, until Mariabel appeared. Her pure, undisguised greed and wisdom beyond her time were like a light piercing the eternal night of his heart. Although this light was not warm, but cold ambition, this was exactly what he needed. A successor who could inherit his aspiration of peace through dominance. Mariabel, if my strength fails, you must inherit my ambition. Granbell once instructed, his voice carrying an almost obsessive anticipation that was hard to detect. Under the dominance of my Zoro clan, forcefully create a peaceful world without war. I understand, grandfather. I swear I will assist you with all my might. Mariabel responded respectfully, but in her heart, a more fervent fire, her own, burned. She understood his pain and agreed with his methods, but her goal was purer and more extreme. Dominance itself was the ultimate goal. Using the economy as a chessboard and desires as chess pieces, she would bring the entire world into her grasp. Time returns to the present. The flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows in the secret room filled with ancient scrolls and a continental sandbox map. Illuminating Granbell Zoro's face, etched with years and resolute decisions. Mariabel Zoro stood before the sandbox map, her slender finger precisely pointing at the location of the Jura Great Forest. Grandfather, the intelligence has been confirmed. The nation calling itself the Rimuru Tempest Federation is established here. Her voice was clear and certain, without the slightest hesitation typically found in a child. You see, this location, it's precisely at a potential traffic node for several major trade routes on the continent. Although it seems isolated for now. Once it develops, with its reported unique products and monster resources, it could easily become the de facto hub for East-West trade. She slightly raised her head, her eyes, capable of seeing through desires, gleamed with calm analytical light. Yet, her tone was deliberately imbued with a calculated concern. They possess a demon lord-level ruler, yet they outwardly project an image of peaceful coexistence, even forming an alliance with the Dwarf Kingdom. Now, they are widely issuing invitations, attempting to establish diplomatic relations with human nations. These actions, on the surface, appear to be for survival, but combined with their geographical location. Grandfather, I can't help but suspect this is an extremely clever disguise. She paused intentionally, letting the implications of her words ferment in the air. What they aspire to control is likely not just a corner of the Jura Great Forest. What they want is to bind all nations with economic chains, without shedding a drop of blood. Ultimately, to dominate the economic lifelines of the entire world. This would be a war, far more difficult to resist than any military conquest. She precisely exposed a conspiracy that Tempest had never even considered. Rimuru and Charlotte Tempest's goals were home and coexistence, but in Mariabel's interpretation, they became expansionist ambitions cloaked in sugar. She knew that a simple monster threat might no longer move her grandfather. But this potential challenge to his core plan of domination for peace would surely touch his most sensitive nerve. Indeed, Granbell's previously half-closed eyes fully opened, his sharp gaze falling like a tangible presence upon that point on the sandbox map. He had witnessed too many empires rise and fall, and knew well that economic control could silently dismantle a regime far more effectively than swords. Monsters weren't terrifying. What was terrifying were intelligent monsters that understood development and could shift the world's power dynamics. To infiltrate through trade and culture, eventually achieving invisible domination, is that it? Granbell's voice was deep and hoarse, carrying a chill that suggested his most sensitive spot had been touched. If what you say is true, then this tempest, they truly obstruct our great plan to forge peace. Seeing her grandfather's change in attitude, Mariabel knew the time was right. She stepped forward, bowed slightly, her tone imbued with immense confidence and resolute eagerness to fight. Precisely, grandfather. Therefore, please entrust this matter to me. She looked up, her eyes burning with the flame of greed. I will go personally, or dispatch suitable pawns, to intervene in a way they cannot refuse. I will show them what true economic strategy is. In their most confident domain, I will directly crush their unrealistic fantasies, transforming this potential threat into a stepping stone for our Zoro family to dominate the world. A brief silence fell in the secret room, broken only by the crackling of the candlelight. Granbell's profound gaze fixed on his successor, and finally, he slowly nodded. Shiltro's royal palace observation deck. Sunlight spilled onto the white marble columns, and the distant silhouette of the city-state was faintly visible amidst the thin clouds. Mariabel Zoro stood leaning on the railing, her young body draped in an exquisite gown, yet exuding an undeniable majesty. Footsteps approached from behind, neither fast nor slow. She didn't turn around, simply spoke softly, her voice clearly cutting through the gentle whisper of the breeze. "You're here, Yuki." It was indeed Yuki Kagarizaka, the young commander of the Freedom Association headquarters. He still looked like a black-haired youth, with a harmless, slightly lazy smile on his face. However, if one looked closely, they would notice that the depths of his eyes seemed to lack the usual sparkle. As if covered by a thin mist, appearing exceptionally obedient. I came right away after receiving your summons." Yuki scratched his cheek, his tone light and natural, as if he were just meeting a regular friend. "What's the rush, looking for me? Mariabelle, little sister." He even used a familiar, almost imperceptible teasing tone in his address, which perfectly blended with his usual outward personality. Mariabelle turned around, her golden eyes fixed on him. In her vision, Yuki was entwined with clearly visible threads of desire. His desire was immense, and controlling him took little effort. These desires were like strings in her eyes, and she was the sole musician. She was certain that the covetous one had silently permeated his will long ago. To the east, the Juru Great Forest. She spoke concisely, a new monster nation has been established there, called Tempest. They seem to have been a bit too active recently, which my grandfather and I find somewhat uninteresting. She tilted her head slightly, revealing a cold and cruel smile utterly unbefitting her age. Go and stir up some fun for them. The scale doesn't need to be too large, but make sure those monsters understand that this world is not their playground to do as they please. How you do it, you decide. I trust your ability. She didn't use a commanding tone, but rather stated an obvious truth. A direction he had, internally, already agreed upon and would execute. Yuki's smile didn't change at all. He even seemed to ponder for a moment before nodding readily. Tempest, huh? Sounds like an interesting place. No problem, I've been feeling a bit bored lately anyway. I'll go arrange some after-show entertainment for them. His reaction was impeccable, perfectly matching someone guided by the covetous one, who believed they were acting on their own volition. Thinking this was a choice they made to seek enjoyment. Very good. Mariabelle withdrew her gaze with satisfaction, looking out into the distance again. You may go. Understood. I'll go prepare then. Yuki waved his hand and left, his steps still light and casual. It wasn't until he walked out of the palace grounds and through an empty corridor that the lazy, obedient expression on Yuki's face instantly vanished. His footsteps didn't falter, but a curve, completely different from before, slowly formed on his lips, full of playfulness and malice. Hey, Greed's Dominion, what an interesting ability indeed. However, treating me as a mere pawn to be manipulated, isn't that a bit too naive, little princess? Freedom Association Headquarters, Secret Council Chamber. Yuki Kagarizaka returned to his private domain deep within the Freedom Association headquarters. The harmless smile on his face long gone, replaced by a profound shrewdness of one who plans ahead. He lightly tapped the table, and an invisible ripple spread. Before long, several figures quietly appeared in the council chamber like phantoms. Leading them was Clayman, who still maintained his elegant, confident, and composed demeanor, as if everything was under his control. He bowed slightly. Boss, you summoned us. Beside him was a woman with dazzling blonde hair, a graceful figure, and a delicate, elven-like appearance, Kagali. She was once Demon Lord Kozalime, killed by Demon Lord Leon, and now, through Yuki's machinations, she was reborn in this beautiful female body, her eyes holding a hint of laziness and a deeply hidden sharpness. It seems there's something interesting again, boss. Next to appear were the members of the moderate clown troupe. Laplace, the vice leader, with a cynical demeanor. Footman, the angry clown, his muscles taut, appearing irritable and prone to anger. Tia, the crying clown, a tear mole seemingly perpetually hanging from the corner of her eye, her expression tinged with neurotic sadness. Yes, I've gathered you all because there's something that needs to be handled. Yuki leaned back in his chair, his tone relaxed, as if discussing the evening's menu. That newly established Rimuru Tempest Federation in the East has been a bit too prominent recently. While it doesn't significantly affect our current plans, it feels a bit like an eyesore. Clayman immediately understood the intention, a characteristic, somewhat maniacal smile appearing on his face. Hee, are you referring to Tempest? Indeed, a nation established by a slime and unknown monsters, being too ostentatious is not a good thing. Do you need me to give them a friendly greeting? A warning is necessary. Yuki nodded, his gaze sweeping over everyone. But it cannot be directly linked to us. We need a sufficiently powerful, out of control, monster to scout for us. At this, Laplace grinned, interjecting with his unique accent. Hey, boss is saying he wants to give them a surprise, right? I think. Isn't there a big guy still lying around in the Jura Great Forest? Cogoli calmly analyzed. Laplace is referring to the Great Storm Vortex. Using Lord Veldora's residual magic essence, combined with other materials from the forest. Theoretically, it is indeed possible to create an imitation, or make it resurrect prematurely. Resurrect the Great Storm Vortex. Haha. That sounds fun. It'll definitely turn that place upside down. Tia excitedly clapped her hands, shouting loudly. Footman, meanwhile, softly said with a tearful voice. Ah, to have such a monster destroy a new nation full of hope, it's just too sad. Despite his mournful tone, the corners of his mouth subtly turned upward. Exactly, exactly. Laplace chimed in, wagging his finger proudly. Brother Clayman, haven't you been tinkering with the Storm Dragon's magic essence all this time? Creating a degraded replica should be a piece of cake for you, right? Make it seem like a natural resurrection, and let it secretly wander into the Rimuru Tempest Federation tilde. Clayman's smile grew brighter. Of course, Laplace. Guiding and catalyzing a seemingly natural disaster is my specialty. I guarantee Tempest will think it's just bad luck. Yuki smiled with satisfaction. Then, the specifics will be handled by Clayman, with Laplace and Cogoli assisting. His gaze swept over everyone, his tone carrying a final warning. Remember, everyone present, and all forces under your command, must be completely unaware of this incident. We have never discussed this matter. Understood, boss. Everyone responded in unison. With their own schemes and wicked smiles, the clowns accepted their orders and successively melted into the shadows. Tia rubbed her hands together as she walked. I can't wait to see the big show. Cogoli calmly followed and left. Laplace lazily waved his hand. Boss, you can rest assured when I handle things tilde. Clayman remained last, his confident smile turning grim after he turned away. He muttered to himself. The slime and that snake who ruined my plan. Let's see how you handle this great gift, this time. After everyone had left, the gentle smile on Yuki's face instantly vanished, replaced by a deep, sinister curve. Mariabelle's domination. Heh. Clayman thought this was an opportunity to prove himself to Cogoli, and Laplace thought it was just for fun, but for Yuki. This was both a task to appease the covetous one, princess and a crucial step to test the Rimuru Tempest Federation's true strength and advance his grand plan. He chuckled softly. Perform to your heart's content, clowns. Let's see how many cards you can uncover from the Rimuru Tempest Federation. And to what extent you can disrupt the order of this world. After the members of the moderate clown troupe departed with their plot to revive the Great Storm Vortex, Yuki Kagarizaka did not stop. He turned to face another figure slowly emerging from the shadows. She was a tall, imposing woman with flowing black hair and sharp, knife-like purple eyes. Her attire bore the emblem of the Holy Empire of Lubelius, and she exuded a powerful and pure aura of holy magic. It was Hinata Sakaguchi, revered as a saint by the Western nations and the captain of the Holy Empire of Lubelius's Knight Order. Yuki. Hinata's voice was clear and cold, without any pleasantries. You specifically sought me out, what is it? A fragile cooperative relationship existed between her and Yuki, based on mutual interests. But both knew full well that this relationship was built on thin ice. Yuki's face showed a perfectly timed expression of sorrow and indignation. Miss Hinata, I just received some painful and infuriating intelligence from the East. He deliberately paused, observing Hinata's reaction. It's about Teacher Shizu. Hinata's eyes instantly sharpened, and the aura around her almost solidified the air. Teacher Shizu. What happened to her? The fact that Shizu had gone east to investigate the mystery of the storm dragon's disappearance and then vanished without a trace had always been a hidden worry in her heart. According to the intelligence I have verified from multiple sources. Yuki's voice deepened, carrying heavy weight. Teacher Shizu did arrive in the Juru Great Forest and came into contact with that newly established monster nation, Tempest. However, she met with misfortune there. He met Hinata's suddenly icy and piercing gaze, stating each word deliberately. She died. And the one who killed her, and devoured and absorbed her remains, was one of that nation's rulers, a slime named Rimuru. Wah! What? A terrifying killing intent instantly erupted from Hinata, and the temperature in the council chamber plummeted. The source of the information is reliable. That slime seems to possess abilities similar to Predator. Yuki added the final straw at the opportune moment, his tone filled with righteous indignation. Teacher Shizu's remains and power both became sustenance for his evolution. A monster that commits such blasphemous acts against the deceased, yet dares to claim nationhood, is truly unforgivable. Hinata closed her eyes, her tightly clenched fists turning white at the knuckles. When she opened her eyes again, only cold killing intent and grim determination remained in her purple pupils. I understand. Her voice was terrifyingly calm. Thank you for informing me of this, Yuki. I will personally investigate the truth, and if it is confirmed, I will handle it myself, in my personal capacity. Rimuru must pay the price for his actions. She said no more, turning and leaving, her steps firm, like a holy sword already drawn and sworn to drink blood. Watching Hinata's disappearing back, the sorrow on Yuki's face instantly vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating smirk of success. Excellent, another sharp blade has willingly presented itself. Kingdom of Pharmus, luxurious royal court. At the same time, in the court of the Kingdom of Pharmus, slander was brewing. A richly dressed, seemingly shrewd merchant was bowing to the corpulent, dull-eyed king on the throne. This merchant was one of countless pawns secretly manipulated by Mariabel Zoro through the covetous one. Your Majesty, do you know the current value of that Jura Great Forest in the east? The merchant said fawningly. That monster federation, Tempest, not only possesses rich mineral and monster resources, but its technology is also quite peculiar. More importantly, they have just established their nation, their foundation is unstable, and their military preparedness must be very lax. He deliberately lowered his voice, full of temptation. With Pharmus's powerful military, if we were to send troops now, we could surely crush them with lightning speed. At that time, endless resources and rare technologies would all fall into your Majesty's hands. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, both to display your Majesty's military achievements and to enrich the national treasury. And, he added, the storm dragon Veldora has been confirmed to have completely disappeared, so there's no need to worry about its retaliation. If your Majesty can take it, that would be immense wealth. As the obese king listened, a greedy glint gradually appeared in his murky eyes. He seemed to already see countless treasures and the reputation of dominating the East beckoning to him. The merchant struck while the iron was hot, spreading rumors. There are rumors that those monsters are secretly researching forbidden weapons, intending to threaten neighboring human nations. Your Majesty's deployment of troops is an act of divine justice, a righteous endeavor. Justice. Yes, that's right. It is justice. The king puffed out his corpulent belly, finally making up his mind. Issue the order, assemble the army. I will personally send troops to subjugate those audacious monsters. Holy Empire of Lubelius, Bishop's Council Chamber. Almost simultaneously, within the Holy Empire of Lubelius, a high-ranking bishop was making an impassioned speech. In the depths of his eyes, an almost imperceptible golden thread belonging to the covetous one flashed. Fellow colleagues, monsters are the source of defilement and chaos in the world. Their very existence is a blasphemy against the luminous faith. The bishop declared righteously. Now, monsters in the east dare to take advantage of the disappearance of the forest's guardian, the storm dragon Veldora, to establish a so-called federation. This trend must not be allowed to continue. The Kingdom of Pharmus has decided to send troops to subjugate them, and this is an excellent opportunity for our Holy Empire to display divine power and purify the world. He surveyed the assembled clergy, his voice full of incitement. We must dispatch the Holy Knight Order to assist. This is not interfering in the internal affairs of another nation, but rather to uphold the will of God and execute absolute justice. To thoroughly eradicate all monsters from this holy land. Under his instigation, many conservative bishops and knight commanders echoed his sentiments. What they didn't know was that this bishop was already Mariabel's puppet. And even less known was that Mariabel's grandfather, Granbel Zoro, held another supreme identity in Lubelius, the head of the Seven Luminaries. This hidden network was quietly pushing the Holy Empire's forces towards their predetermined battlefield. Just as the dominated bishop was passionately inciting a fervent atmosphere of monster purification in the council chamber. The atmosphere deep within the most central and secret sanctuary of this holy city was starkly different. There was no clamor here, only eternal silence and coldness. Soft light, as if from the stars and moon themselves, filtered through the stained glass windows, illuminating the coffin in the center of the hall, which resembled a giant crystal artwork. The Holy Empire of Lubelius's sole true god, revered as the Queen of the Night, Luminous, stood quietly beside the coffin. Her silver hair flowed like a waterfall, and her figure was as petite as a young girl's, but her eyes held a depth and aloofness that spanned vast stretches of time. At this moment, she was completely unaware of the war ripples being stirred up in her name outside. Her entire attention was focused on the girl sleeping within the coffin for untold ages. Chloe O'Bell. Chloe slept peacefully, her face frozen in the prime of her beauty, as if merely lost in a tranquil dream. Luminous's slender, pale fingers gently brushed over the cold crystal surface, moving slowly along the coffin's contours. As if caressing a priceless work of art. Her gaze flowed complexly over Chloe's sleeping form, filled with an indescribable tenderness and a deep obsession that transcended time and space. So perfect, so fragile, yet it contains possibilities that even I cannot fully control. You are mine, my only certain coordinate in the endless night. No matter how much time passes, no matter how the outside world changes, only you must always remain by my side. She whispered, her voice echoing in the empty hall, with a hint of non-divine, almost obsessive tenderness. Rest assured, no one and nothing will disturb your peaceful slumber. I will keep this dirty and noisy world at bay. She was completely immersed in her own world, guarding this sleeping body. Unaware that the bishop outside was using her doctrine as a banner. About to bring a holy judgment of blood and fire to an emerging nation far away. She did not know that her forces were being quietly manipulated by the greed of the Zoro family. And that her will as a god was being overridden, becoming a part of someone else's conspiracy. Until that web of chaos woven by Yuki and Mariabel inevitably touched upon the eternity she cherished. This Queen of the Night, perhaps then, would temporarily lift her cold eyes from this long vigil. Thanks for watching.